Chapter 14:24. The cultivation location Lin Jun chose was the bottom of Fallen Star Lake. Fallen Star Lake was the largest ocean in the primordial realm. Its depth could be calculated in light years. Even if a star fell in, it wouldn't cause much of a ripple. This showed how deep the lake was. No living creatures could survive in the depths of the lake. The water pressure here was enough to cause life forms below the godly king level to explode. This was also the cultivation location Lin Jun chose. It was quiet and undisturbed. Before he came, Lin Jun had communicated with his family. No one would disturb Lin Jun's cultivation. After entering Fallen Star Lake, he teleported directly to the bottom of the sea. Lin Jun searched for the deepest part of the lake. Lin Jun slowly sat down cross-legged and began a long period of seclusion. Lin Jun now had the ability to open up a new universe. As long as he was willing, a new universe would be born. However, Lin Jun didn't want to open up a new universe immediately. He felt that his strength still had room for improvement. Before that, he had to raise his strength to the peak. Lin Jun still had a few points to improve his strength. First was his overlaying 9 seals technique. He had only completed the 7th level of the Wisdom Fist seal. There is also the 8th level of the Sun seal and the 9th level of the Aquarius seal. The 9th level of the Aquarius seal was something that most sovereigns couldn't do. However, Lin Jun had to learn the 8th level of the Sun seal. Besides the overlaying 9 seals technique, there was also Lin Jun's Soul Guard. After the 33rd level of the Sky Reaching platform, there was still the 34th level. After passing the 33rd level, Lin Jun felt that his soul strength had reached the peak of the sovereign level. It was equivalent to a perfected sovereign. After all, the limit of the Sky Reaching platform was the perfected sovereign level. However, there was still the 34th level above the perfected sovereign level. Lin Jun vaguely felt that it was better for him to comprehend the 34th level of the Sky Reaching platform first. With Lin Jun's current aptitude and comprehension, there was almost nothing in the world that was difficult to comprehend. However, the 34th level of the Sky Reaching platform really stumped him. The 34th level of the Sky Reaching platform had another name. It was called the Universe in My Heart. The content inside was actually a star chart of the entire universe. New territories, primordial realm, special star systems, forbidden lands of the universe. Galaxy, nebula, galaxy, stars, planets, moons, dark stars, meteorite belts, large and small celestial bodies, dust, innumerable. It was very simple to comprehend the Sky Reaching platform. You just had to rely on your own memory and memorize the entire universe's starry sky layout. Lin Jun wasn't afraid of anything, but this really scared him. His memory was very good, but how could he remember the entire universe? It might not be difficult to remember the planets in the solar system, but those who did not specialize in astronomy might not even know how many moons there were in the solar system. Even those who specialized in astronomy found it difficult to calculate how many meteorite belts there were in the solar system, let alone the Milky Way. What about the entire primordial realm of the new territories? It would be easy for the dimensional universe to copy it, but this was obviously not allowed. This was to make a person rely on their own brain to completely memorize it. Lin Jun was also very shocked because this was the first time he had seen a star chart of the entire universe. Even after so many years, Lin Jun had never walked through a billionth of the universe. He really didn't know who had the ability to draw a star chart of the entire universe. It was obvious that this star chart was real. Lin Jun's thoughts wandered in the star chart and went to the new territories. He even saw the solar system, his hometown, the azure blue earth, and the moon in the sky. It was extremely small in the entire universe, but it was Lin Jun's home. But no matter how shocking it was, this mission had to be carried out. Lin Jun couldn't start from his hometown. He wanted to start from the edge of the new territories universe. Lin Jun thought that he had plenty of time. Under the time deceleration, one day was almost equivalent to 100,000 years. If he counted slowly, there would be a day when he could count it all. But just as he started calculating at the edge of the new territories, he encountered a big problem. The new territories were expanding. This star chart was like a real universe that was constantly expanding. This made it very difficult for Lin Jun to solve. The new realm is actually growing. If that's the case, how are we supposed to count them? Lin Jun finally decided to target the primordial realm after a long period of helplessness. After all, the primordial realm was no longer expanding. But in reality, Lin Jinsai felt that he had underestimated the situation. This kind of thing shouldn't be done by humans. Memorizing the stars one by one was enough to make an ordinary person have a nervous breakdown. This was because such a huge amount of memories wasn't something an ordinary person's soul memory could withstand. Not only could humans not do it, but even gods couldn't. Fortunately, Lin Jun's soul was strong enough and incomparable to others. It was just that this period of time was too long. It was so long that he couldn't see the end. Lin Jun had to memorize at least 10,000 stars every day, big and small. But after 100 years, he realized that he was still circling in a small area. Lin Jun focused his mind and eliminated distracting thoughts. He entered a long period of cultivation. Fortunately, he wasn't just counting stars out of boredom. At the same time, he was also cultivating the overlay battle technique and comprehending his own ruler battle technique. He specialized in studying the energy of the new universe and grasped the operation of the nomological laws. After getting used to such a life every day, Lin Jun didn't feel that the days were too hard to pass. He couldn't even feel the passage of time. He had completely forgotten the existence of time. Grasping the starry sky of the multiverse had become his instinct after a long period of inertia. There were all kinds of strange ways to calculate the universe year, but many advanced civilizations also had the same calculation method. 3,600 years on Earth was equivalent to a universe year. Because this period of time was the rise and fall of the first civilization, it was recognized as a universe year. During Lin Jun's cultivation process, many major events happened in the primordial realm. First of all, Su Mingwei was the first to enter the quasi-ruler realm in the first universe year. With the help of the ruler god crystal that Lin Jun had given her, she successfully broke through and became Lin Jun's second ruler wife after Sunflower Scar. With two rulers standing guard, Fallen Star Lake had no worries, and the primordial realm entered a period of peace. When this universe year was about to end, Fallen Star Lake welcomed a guest. It couldn't be called a guest. It could even be called a host. This person was Fallen Star Lake's fifth senior brother, Jean Nuo. Jean Nuo returned to Fallen Star Lake and was warmly welcomed by everyone. And at this time, Su Mingwei and the others discovered that fifth senior brother Jean Nuo was also a ruler powerhouse. Wind-type ruler. No wonder he was always so carefree. Jean Nuo returned with a worried expression. When he saw Lin Jun's wives, he first greeted each other and then immediately asked about Lin Jun's whereabouts. Sunflower Scar looked troubled, not knowing what to say. Chapter 1425. Everyone was stunned when they heard the news. This was especially so for Su Mingwei and the others. They had all cultivated in the Fallen Star Lake's holy land. Naturally, they knew what the Fallen Star Ruler meant. The Fallen Star Ruler was one of the only 3 people in the entire universe who had reached the level of a perfected ruler. The Myth Ruler, the Lone Star Ruler, and the Fallen Star Ruler. These 3 great rulers had always stood at the top of the universe, unshakable. However, such an iconic figure had actually fallen. This was simply unimaginable. Without the Fallen Star Ruler, would the Fallen Star Lake's holy land be in trouble again? Fifth senior brother, what happened? Su Mingwei asked. Jean Nuo sighed. No one knows the details. However, Master has been in the Beast King prison for many years. Logically speaking, there shouldn't be any power that can cause fatal harm to Master. Even if there's danger, there should be enough time to escape. However, a few days ago, he sent out a message saying that an evil beast had appeared in the Beast King prison. The 3 perfected rulers had gone to deal with it. However, they never returned. Until a year ago, as Jean Nuo spoke, she took out something. All perfected rulers have great abilities. Before Master died, he passed through time and space and tossed this to me. It's a strange art that he had researched. Give it to Lin Jun. Su Mingwei took the item from Jean Nuo. She realized that it was a secret manual and a bell. Beast Taming Art. 9 Palaces Purple Gold Bell. Jean Nuo explained to Su Mingwei. Master spent his life researching beast taming. He stayed in the Beast King prison for many years. His ultimate dream was to find a perfected ruler-level ferocious beast and subdue it for his own use. With a perfected ruler and a perfected ferocious beast, his strength would definitely increase greatly. However, the heavens did not fulfill his wish. In the end, he could not fulfill his dream. In the end, he did not tie this 9 Palaces purple gold bell to the 9 beasts' necks. After he died, the bell returned. This book is the essence of his life's work. He gave it to me. Unfortunately, I'm not talented and know nothing about this. Moreover, the cause of Master's death is still unclear. I have to investigate it. Hence, this thing can only be left to Lin Jun. Su Mingwei hesitated for a moment. But Lin Jun, sister-in-law, there's no need to say more. Lin Jun's talent is something I've never seen before. If Lin Jun has time, just tell him to come to the Beast King prison to find me. After saying that, Jean Nuo left in a hurry. Clearly, she was in a hurry. Su Mingwei looked at Sunflower Scar. Sister Sunflower about this? Sunflower Scar thought for a moment. I should tell my husband. After all, this is no small matter. I never would have thought that a consummate expert like the Fallen Star Ruler would actually fall. Just thinking about it is terrifying. Su Mingwei nodded. After becoming a ruler, she had learned many things. She knew that this was definitely not a simple matter. After handing over the secret manual and the purple gold bell to Sunflower Scar teleported away. A moment later, he arrived at the surface of the ocean where Lin Jun was cultivating. Husband. After a few soft calls, Lin Jun, who was still counting the stars at the bottom of the ocean, woke up with a start. With a splash, Lin Jun rushed out of the ocean. Where did the flowers come from? Sunflower Scar rolled her eyes at Lin Jun. She summoned water vapor and cleaned Lin Jun's filthy body. Then, she explained the purpose of Jean Nuo's visit in full detail. Lin Jun immediately fell into deep thought. He had never met the Fallen Star Ruler, but he could be considered his master in name. After all, Lin Jun was the 6th senior apprentice brother of the Fallen Star Lake Holy Land. He had also once been the Holy Land's guard. In his heart, the Fallen Star Ruler was still a powerful expert. He did not expect him to fall. If Jean Nuo had asked him to go to the Beast King prison with her, Lin Jun probably would not have gone at this time. He had to complete the final test of the heavenly platform and open the door to the new universe. However, this time was too long. He would have to stay here for a long time. Looking at the book and purple gold bell in Sunflower Scar's hands, Lin Jun knew that this was a shackle his 5th senior apprentice brother had placed on him. If he accepted these 2 treasures, it would be equivalent to admitting his identity as the 6th senior apprentice brother of the Fallen Star Lake. Because he had accepted his master's legacy, he would have to bear the responsibility of avenging his master. Lin Jun smiled bitterly. Looks like senior apprentice brother is still a little worried about me. You're worried that I'll wash my hands of this matter. Don't you know that I've lived and learned in the Fallen Star Lake for many years? Although I've never met Master, don't I know how to be grateful? He took the book and bell in Sunflower Scar's hands. I'll learn this secret manual. When I come out of seclusion, I'll definitely go to the Beast King prison to meet up with 5th senior apprentice brother and avenge Master. After Lin Jun finished speaking, the clouds in the sky suddenly drifted and hearty laughter came. Ha! I knew 6th junior apprentice brother was an upright person. Since you said so, I'm relieved. See you in the Beast King prison. A ray of light flew away. It was Jean Nuo. Lin Jun smiled as he looked at Jean Nuo's departing figure. She might not know that her figure, which was hidden in the clouds, could not escape Lin Jun's eye of illusion breaker at all. Lin Jun's words were meant to reassure him. This was also what Lin Jun had been thinking. However, he did not know how long it would take for him to come out of seclusion. After saying a few more words to Sunflower Scar, Lin Jun hugged this cold girl and gave her a deep kiss. This special dominator left with a red face. Only then did Lin Jun return to the Fallen Star Lake. The days of counting stars were long and unreachable. After more than 3,000 years, Lin Jun had only counted a small corner of the primordial realm. He did not know how long it would take to complete it. After such a long time, he would not have to do the same thing all the time. Counting stars all the time would make him dizzy. It was also good to read some books and adjust. This purple gold bell was a supreme grade support type equipment. Supreme grade equipment was very rare, second only to supreme equipment. Support type equipment was even rarer. The value of this purple gold bell was actually not inferior to supreme equipment. The 9 bells could be tied to the necks of 9 ferocious beasts for one's own use. Lin Jun's heart skipped a beat. When the fallen star lake had calmed down, those ferocious beasts had already slipped back to the Beast King prison because he was not there to suppress them. If he went to the Beast King prison, he could consider taking in a few Dominator Realm beasts. They would also be a powerful auxiliary force in battle. After putting away the purple gold bell, he opened the secret book left behind by the fallen star ruler. The first few words attracted Lin Jun's attention. The book introduced the methods of taming beasts. However, there was one particularly important point. The true king of beasts is best if he is a beast himself. This meant that those with beast bloodlines would have an easier time taming beasts. Lin Jun, who was originally just looking at it casually, opened his eyes slightly. He was a black hole beast. If he was a beast, wouldn't it be easier? Chapter 1426. Lin Jun began cultivating the beast-taming art according to the secret manual of the Fallen Star Ruler's inheritance. However, this period wasn't long. It was only half a year. Half a year was more than enough for Lin Jun, because half a year for him was equivalent to 50,000 years for others. Cultivating a secret manual for more than 50,000 years already proved the difficulty of this secret manual. But half a year later, Lin Jun still completely understood this secret manual and mastered it to the point of perfection. What Lin Jun lacked now was practice. Practice required Lin Jun to go to the Beast King prison personally and use the 9 Palace Purple Gold Bell in combination with the beast-taming art to subdue the beast-taming art. Lin Jun didn't have time to go to the Beast King prison now. His cultivation hadn't been completed yet. Accepting the Fallen Star Ruler's inheritance was equivalent to accepting a responsibility. Lin Jun had to take revenge for the Fallen Star Ruler. Although Jin Nuo went to the Beast King prison, the Fallen Star Ruler had perished there. It wouldn't be easy for him to take revenge with his strength. Unknowingly, Lin Jun had become an influential force in the universe. In the long years that followed, Lin Jun spent his time among the stars. The primordial realm's starry sky, including the entire endless sea of stars, took Lin Jun 7 universe years. 1 universe year was 3,600 Earth years, and 7 universe years was 25,200 Earth years. 1 year for Lin Jun was equivalent to 10 years for others. In total, it was 520 billion years. This long period of time was almost equivalent to the history of a planet's development, and it started from prehistoric times. However, what was even more frightening was that this period of time wasn't the end. It was just a process for Lin Jun to count stars. Next, he had to count the new territory's starry sky, which was even more difficult to endure. The new territories were different from the primordial realm. Although the starry sky between the two was about the same size, the problem was that the new territories were constantly expanding and new starry skies were constantly appearing. Lin Jun also thought of a solution during this period of time. That was to draw a boundary between the existing starry skies. He would count what was within the boundary first and ignore what was beyond it. This process took another 7 universe years. Within 7 universe years, Lin Jun had counted the number of galaxies within the boundaries of the new territories. As for the remaining galaxies, he drew another boundary. Another universe year had passed. Then, he drew the boundary again. In the process of drawing the boundary again and again, the number of remaining starry skies became fewer and fewer. By the 10th time, Lin Jun felt that he didn't need to draw lines anymore. As long as he scanned the area with his divine telekinesis, he would be able to see the tiny bit of space that the new territories had just expanded. By the time Lin Jun had finished counting the stars in the 17th universe year, he had finally finished counting all the stars in the universe. Lin Jun engraved this number in his mind. He also memorized every single galaxy and nebula in every single piece of space. This was Lin Zhun's current strength. With the capacity of the human brain, he could remember the universe. This was also thanks to Lin Zhun's mental strength. After counting stars for so many years, his mental strength skyrocketed and finally reached grand completion crystal formation realm. Crystal formation realm. Even dominators didn't reach grand completion crystal formation realm. But Lin Zhun did it. When he reached grand completion crystal formation realm, the star map of the 34th level of the heavenly platform disappeared. Following the disappearance of this star, the heavenly platform shone brightly and a golden bridge appeared. Lin Zhun's consciousness extended upwards. It was like a person walking on this golden bridge and seeing the road to heaven. At the end of the golden bridge was a golden throne. Lin Zhun came before the throne and wanted to try sitting on it. However, he couldn't sit on it. He didn't know why either. A voice came through the air. "Lin Zhun, you're here." "It's you." Lin Zhun revealed a smile. This voice made him feel incomparably close. Cultivating until now, this voice had guided him countless times to overcome difficulties before he had today's achievements. If it wasn't for this person, Lin Zhun might have turned into dust by now. "That's right, it's me. I've been waiting for you here for a long time." "Who are you? Where are you? Where's this place? Can you show yourself?" Lin Zhun had a lot of questions to ask him. "This is the chaos intersection point, and I'm right in front of you. It's just that you can't see me yet." Lin Zhun couldn't help but feel a little anxious when he heard, "Why can't I see you?" It's very simple. Because it's only your consciousness that has reached the chaos intersection point. Comprehending the star map of the 34th level of the heavenly platform only proves that your soul strength has reached this realm. However, your main body can't come here yet. These words made Lin Zhun sober up abruptly. He only saw the things at the end of the heavenly platform through his soul, but his main body was still lacking in strength. What is the chaos intersection point? Who are you? The chaos intersection is the intersection of the worlds of the universe. It is the passageway between worlds. As for me, when your main body arrives, you will naturally understand. Lin Zhun said, "I will definitely work hard to come here as soon as possible and see the real you." Hee, don't speak too early. In this universe, your consciousness isn't the first person to come here. Lin Zhun was stunned. He never thought that there would be someone in this universe who could do what he did. Lin Zhun knew very well how difficult it was to reach the 34th level of the heavenly platform. If it weren't for his Nirvana 9 revolutions, there would be no hope of counting the star map of the universe. However, someone could do this. It was simply unimaginable. However, Lin Zhun, I still believe that you will come here one day. Of course, it will be very difficult. The voice changed the topic. Lin Zhun, go. The universe you are in is not stable. There are many people here who are stronger than you. And forget it. That's your path. You have to complete it yourself. Lin Zhun wanted to say something, but his consciousness left the heavenly platform uncontrollably. Goodbye. I hope you can come back. The light in front of him blurred, and Lin Zhun's consciousness returned in the next moment. His body was still at the bottom of the fallen star lake. The pitch-black lake water in front of him stunned his mind for a long time. It had been too long, more than a dozen universe years. In the real world, more than 60,000 years had passed. From the time Lin Zhun cultivated to the pseudo-dominator level, he spent less than 10,000 years. But this comprehension alone took him over 60,000 years. Although the lake water outside was still undulating, Lin Zhun knew that the world outside had already changed, and the people there had changed. He didn't know how his family was and how his family was doing after 60,000 years. However, at this time, Lin Zhun couldn't immediately go out. Chapter 14:27. As long as Lin Zhun wanted to, he could create a new universe at any time. But if he didn't want to, this new universe was still within his control. But today, it was a little out of control. From the Chaos Lotus, a turbulent chaos air current erupted, instantly enveloping Lin Zhun. Accompanied by this air wave, Lin Zhun's mind was clear. His body began to disintegrate, turning into light. Nirvana, ninth transformation completed. Too much time had passed, making Lin Jun think that he had completed the ninth transformation, but he forgot that he was still one step away from the ninth transformation, and that was to do as he pleased. After returning to Fallen Star Lake, after fighting and killing to his heart's content, and completing the last level of the sky-reaching platform, Lin Jun finally completed the ninth transformation. Nirvana, ninth transformation. It's finally over. Lin Jun closed his eyes and disappeared. The next moment, Lin Jun opened his eyes again. But he was no longer at the bottom of Fallen Star Lake, but back at Fantasy Realm Town. This was the place where he started his nirvana. Where he came from, where he returned. Before nirvana, he was at the peak of a pseudo-ruler. After nirvana, he was still at the peak of a pseudo-ruler. However, the strength of today was completely different from the strength of that day. Lin Jun's divine power was originally 100 million. However, this journey of nirvanic rebirth had allowed him to accumulate a lot of power. Every lifetime of cultivation was a form of accumulation. Now, his divine power had already reached 145 million. Such divine power was enough to surpass those supremacy rulers, and even most special rulers. My body is no longer completely human. Lin Jun lowered his head and looked at his body and arms. He realized that he had changed back into the black hole beast body. The black scales on his body shone brightly. After being tempered by chaos air for so many years, the toughness of his muscles and bones had reached an unimaginable level. Unless it was a supreme equipment, it would be difficult to harm Lin Jun's body. This was similar to the time when 41 sovereigns had joined forces to attack Lin Jun. Although it had caused his blood to boil, it was no longer possible to deal any fatal damage to Lin Jun. He raised his hand, and the primal chaos lotus spear appeared in his hand. Now, Lin Jun only had 3 treasures: the primal chaos lotus spear, the 10,000 mountains domain, and the 9 palace purple gold bell. His mastery of the dimensional combined strike had reached perfection. During these 60,000 years, Lin Jun also did 2 things. One was mastering the offensive method of the Sun Seal, and the other was skillfully using the dimensional power in close combat. The attacks he casually unleashed were all Sovereign's battle skills that contained dimensional energy and baleful aura of death. Aside from the fact that he hadn't fused with the Sovereign's God Crystal, Lin Jun's strength was already above most Sovereigns. Just as Lin Jun was hesitating whether or not he should return to the Fallen Star Lake to take a look, a beeping sound came from the dimensional universe within his body. Master! A little girl in a white dress with a bow on her head appeared on Lin Jun's shoulder. Then, she directly plunged into Lin Jun's arms. Sob, sob, sob. It's been tens of thousands of years. Master, don't you miss Chris? Lin Jun was instantly overjoyed. Chris, you've recovered too? Yes. Before Master completed his nirvana, I couldn't recover. Now that Master has completed his nirvana, I naturally recovered too. It's really been a long time. Lin Jun was also a little emotional, especially during the process of counting the stars at the end of his 9th life. More than 60,000 years had passed. If it was anyone else, they would have probably forgotten who they were. It was rare that Chris could return to his side. Lin Jun didn't have any feelings for the artificial life from before. They were all mechanical. Lin Jun only treated Chris as family. Chris rubbed against Lin Jun's body for a while before returning to his shoulder. Master, are you hesitating about something? Yes, I'm thinking if I should return to the Fallen Star Lake. Hee hee, Master has been in seclusion for too long. You don't even know how your hometown is like. Let Chris introduce it to you. How do you know? Master, I just can't come out, but it doesn't mean I don't exist. I know too much about the outside world. Lin Jun smiled. You're amazing. Okay, tell me. Chris made a comfortable posture. After Master went into seclusion, the matriarchs didn't disturb you. They're also focused on cultivation. Matriarch Sunflower Scar entered the Beast King prison again. She said that she wanted to break through to the Sovereign Realm. I don't know how she is now. Lin Jun nodded. Sunflower Scar was originally very talented. It was very likely that she wanted to break through to the Sovereign Realm. and matriarch Feng Qingwan. She cultivated in Fantasy Town for 20,000 years and obtained the fire element sovereign realm god crystal. What? Lin Jun was shocked. Little Phoenix's talent wasn't inferior, especially in the fire element. She combined the abilities of the Fire Phoenix and Fire Qilin. Her fire element talent was even higher than his. But he didn't expect that Little Phoenix could obtain the fire element sovereign realm god crystal. It seemed that she had been stimulated by Sunflower Scar. Instead of waiting at home for Lin Jun's help, she had chosen to go out on her own. She had become a sovereign realm god crystal. Her strength was far above Su Mingwei. She was close to Sunflower Scar. What about the others? Ning Qingxian, Snow White, and Bai Su sisters? And Ning? How did they choose? And Ning and Su Mingwei are still in Fallen Star Lake. Ning Qingxian and the three Bai sisters are not far from Master. They're in Fantasy Town. They also came out. Lin Jun was shocked. He didn't expect that his matriarchs weren't ordinary people. They had chosen to come to Fantasy Town and train on their own. Master, it's been 60,000 years. The matriarchs have already cultivated to pseudo-sovereign realm. You can't keep them waiting. Moreover, they came out together and can take care of each other. Master, you don't have to worry too much. Lin Jun nodded. His matriarchs were all outstanding women. They were all talented. Of course, they wouldn't be willing to live a dull life. It seems that I don't have to return to Fallen Star Lake for the time being. Lin Jun knew what he had to do. After the 9 revolutions nirvana, he wanted to continue moving forward. Returning to Fallen Star Lake wouldn't be of any help. Moreover, his matriarchs were either in Fantasy Town or Beast King Prison. Only Ning and Su Mingwei remained at home to protect their home. Helping his matriarchs obtain the Sovereign Realm God Crystal here and then go to Beast King Prison was the path Lin Jun should take. Did anything else happen? After 5th Senior Apprentice Brother Jino entered Beast King Prison, he disappeared without a trace. I received a message from your master, Lonely Star Fishing Old Man. He told you to find a time to contact him. However, you were in seclusion and didn't receive it. I received it, but I couldn't notify you. After Lin Jun entered seclusion, he immediately completed the 9 revolutions nirvana. He naturally couldn't receive any messages from before. He didn't expect that Crazy would receive it. My master, does this count as me passing the 3rd trial? Chapter 1428. Lin Jun asked Chris to connect to Lone Star Fishing Old Man's dimensional universe. The call was quickly connected, and Lone Star Fishing Old Man appeared on the screen. Disciple, you're finally willing to answer, Master. It's been more than 60,000 years. Where have you been? Lone Star Fishing Old Man spoke to Lin Jun with concern. Lin Jun smiled. Thank you for your concern, Master. I've been cultivating in seclusion. Sai, it's been hard on you. I heard that 41 juggernauts joined forces to expel you, but at that time, I was in the depths of the Beast King prison and couldn't come back. You should have heard that I joined forces with the Myth Juggernaut and the Fallen Star Juggernaut to enter the Beast King prison. In the end, the Fallen Star Juggernaut perished there. I've heard a little, but I don't know the details. It's a long story. Lone Star Fishing Old Man's face was solemn as he began to explain the Beast King prison to Lin Jun. When a universe was born, there were 81 Juggernaut crystals. Corresponding to the Juggernaut crystals, there were also 81 Beast Kings. Each Beast King was a Juggernaut beast. There were 72 elemental beasts and 9 special beasts. These beasts occupied the Beast King prison and would not leave most of the time. But there were exceptions. After the universe was born, it formed the universe's origin, which was the so-called universe's will. The universes will absorb dark matter and form chaos. The chaos aura was stable for 100 billion years. Every 100 billion years, the chaos would become restless. Every time the chaos aura became restless, all living things would be affected. They would become anxious, irritable, crazy, and crazy. Those who had fully awakened their spiritual intelligence were better off, but those who had yet to fully awaken their spiritual intelligence would be affected by the chaotic aura and do many crazy things. It was also at this time that the Beast King prison's Beast Kings would take the initiative to leave the Beast King prison and go to the human world. And the calamity of the world would begin at this time. Since the birth of the universe, it had experienced chaos, aura, restlessness twice. Each time, it was a great calamity for the human world. The first time was fine. The Beast King prison's beasts were not particularly strong, and they survived. The second time was very difficult. It was at that time that the myth Juggernaut turned the tide and defeated two perfect Juggernaut Beast Kings. But the myth Juggernaut was also injured at that time and had not recovered. The third 100 billion years was not far away. But compared to the third calamity, the first and second calamities were child's play. In the third calamity, amongst all the sovereign-level vicious beasts, there would definitely be one that would be able to withstand a massive amount of chaotic energy and become a peerless vicious beast. At that time, even perfected juggernauts would be no match for them. The fall of the mortal realm would be a foregone conclusion. Myth Dominator, Lone Star Fisherman, and Fallen Star Dominator went deep into the Beast King prison. Their goal was to eliminate as many vicious beasts as possible that showed signs of breaking through, and to delay their progress in becoming vicious beasts. This was a temporary solution, but it was also very effective. However, during this process, an accident occurred. The few of them were besieged by ferocious beasts. The Myth Dominator and Lone Star Fisherman fled one after another. The Fallen Star Dominator had fallen. This was the process of their journey to the Beast King prison. After each sovereign fused with a divine crystal, they would head to the Beast King prison to train. In other words, they had to eliminate a vicious beast that corresponded to them. Lone Star Fisherman's expression was grave. Lin Jun, the Beast King prison is in a critical situation. There are less than 1,000 years left until the final 100 billion years. Within 1,000 years, we have to eliminate all the vicious beasts in the Beast King prison. Only then can we survive this calamity. For the sake of the common people, you should hurry to the Beast King prison as soon as possible. After he finished speaking, he slowly let out a breath. In the past, my requirements for you were a bit harsh. In truth, with your ability, you have already completed your training. From today onwards, you are my official disciple. Master hopes that you can surpass your master. Lin Jun nodded silently. Then I will thank Master in advance. You have grown up, and you have many secrets. Master won't ask you. Just hurry over as soon as possible. But you must remember one thing. If you encounter the Myth Dominator, try to avoid him as much as possible. His temperament is unpredictable, and his thoughts are unpredictable. This time, the three of us joined forces. If he hadn't fled first, causing the Fallen Star Dominator and I to be unable to defeat the vicious beasts, Fallen Star wouldn't have fallen. Lin Jun was stunned. Didn't the Myth Dominator stop the vicious beasts from leaving seclusion and save the world? Silly boy, people change. Moreover, in the face of life and death, who can you guarantee will be willing to sacrifice themselves for the sake of righteousness? Lin Jun nodded. You're right. All right. I'm in the Beast King prison. It's not convenient for me to keep talking with you. Just remember to hurry over as soon as possible. There are many sovereigns here. After saying this, Lone Star Fisherman closed the connection to the dimensional universe. Lin Jun let out a long sigh. The topic of conversation with his master was a bit heavy. At this time, Crazy said, Master, your master is right. The Beast King prison is very dangerous. According to what I know, the purpose of the 81 sovereigns is to prevent the 81 Beast Kings from leaving seclusion. That's why there are sovereign God crystals. Do the Beast Kings have God crystals? The Beast Kings don't. There are crystal cores in their heads. If you take out a Beast King crystal core and absorb it, you can increase your sovereign power. Then will there be one less Beast King if you kill one? No. When the older generation of Beast Kings die, a new Beast King will be born from the herd. As long as the Beast King prison exists, there will always be 81 Beast Kings. Lin Jun understood some things. No wonder the Beast King prison was the top of the 3 forbidden zones in the universe. It was because there were 81 Beast Kings here. Moreover, when a Beast King died, a new Beast King would appear. This cycle was very difficult to deal with. Moreover, the day when the aura of chaos became restless was getting closer. When the time came, A Beast King would be able to withstand the aura and break through the limits of Beast Kings, reaching an unimaginable realm. Crazy continued, Master, during this time, many new sovereigns have appeared. Do you want to take a look at the list of sovereigns? I'll take a look. Lin Jun didn't care. Soon, the list appeared in the dimensional universe. There were 81 names listed on it. Sunflower Scar was in the 5th place. Feng Qingluan was in the top 15. Su Mingwei was in the top 50. Hei Tu and Steam Bun were also in the top 50. First place, Mythical Sovereign, Human. Second place, Lone Star Fisherman, Heavenly Rock. Third place, after looking at it for a while, Lin Jun silently put away the list. He had some ideas in his mind, but they hadn't been confirmed yet. He needed more information. Chapter 1429. In front of him were desolate streets, broken houses, and pseudo-sovereigns hiding in the streets and alleys. Lin Jun had left this place for so long. 60,000 years, 9 reincarnations, and today he had finally returned. Everything in Fantasy Realm Town was the same. Lin Jun could still see the Dominator's Heavenly Monument. Of the top 30 people on the Heavenly Monument, 3 of them were Lin Jun's wives. The second was Snow White, the third was Bai Su, and the fourth was Ning Qingxian. The 3 of them had each occupied a cultivation spot with 80 times the usual value. They were currently cultivating. However, the first place wasn't theirs. The first place of the Heavenly Monument was a person called Dragon Marshal. In Lin Jun's era, there wasn't much of a difference between first and second place. However, Dragon Marshal's points were 5 times higher than Snow White's. Lin Jun couldn't help but be speechless. One had to know that Snow White's talent was the number 1 of the 2 great races. Yet, she had lost. As expected, the universe was vast and filled with all sorts of strange things. Too many things had happened in the years he hadn't been here. Lin Jun walked along the streets and passed by the center of the town. The direction he had come from was the east of the town. The 3 wives were in the west, south, and north of the town. He had to pass through the center of the town. The center of the town was where the town was located. It was also where Dragon Marshal resided. There were 100 times cultivation spots there. Back then, it was Lin Jun's home. As he passed by, Lin Jun saw that there were many people cultivating near the center of the town. These people weren't hiding like when Lin Jun was here. Instead, they openly cultivated as if they had nothing to fear. Lin Jun felt it was strange. How come a competition in Fantasy Realm Town wasn't fierce anymore? Even ordinary pseudo-dominators dared to be so brazen. Just as he was feeling strange, someone in front of the town saw Lin Jun. After Nirvana 9 reincarnations, although Lin Jun still showed his true appearance to people, many people still couldn't recognize Lin Jun. They had seen too many people, and Lin Jun had not appeared for more than 60,000 years. Moreover, the appearance of the human race was similar to that of many races, so they could not think of Lin Jun at all. Even if they thought about it, many people believed that Lin Jun was already a sovereign expert, so it was impossible for him to appear in Fantasy Town. Thus, when this person saw Lin Jun, he thought that he was an ordinary pseudo-dominator. When a man saw Lin Jun walking over, he immediately waved his hand in greeting. Hey, kid over there, are you new here? Although Lin Jun was 70,000 years old, he was still very young among pseudo-dominators. However, when Lin Jun saw this pseudo-dominator with millions of divine power refer to him as such, he felt strangely amused. What's the matter? Lin Jun asked. The pseudo-dominator sized up Lin Jun. He couldn't see through Lin Jun's depths, so he probed, Are you new here? You can say so. That's good. You should know that in the martial world, there are rules everywhere. Don't think that you can reach the heavens in one step just by coming to Fantasy Realm Town. That's simply unrealistic. Here, you have to endure. Oh, how do I endure? Accumulate experience. Only by slowly accumulating experience will you be able to obtain better cultivation points and improve your ranking. If you can enter the top 30, you will be considered as the first group. Lin Fan smiled. Wait until the experts who are ranked before you leave. Only then will you be able to obtain better cultivation points. The pseudo-dominator spoke with the tone of a senior, But even so, you still don't have the qualifications to obtain a god crystal. Here, you have to follow the boss. Only when the boss leaves will you be able to take advantage of the situation. If you can't even follow the boss, then you don't even have the qualifications to stand here. As he spoke, he pointed to a dark corner in the distance. There are some people cultivating in the wilderness. Look over there. Those are all arrogant rookies who think they're invincible under the heavens. They refuse to follow the boss, so they don't even have the double cultivation points. They can only sleep on the streets. Do you want to be like them? Lin Jun shook his head. Of course I don't. That's right. You're new here, so I'll tell you clearly. This is the territory of Fantasy Realm Town's #1 expert, Big Brother Dragon Marshal. If you want to stand here, you have to follow Big Brother Dragon Marshal. Look around the town. Are there any people? These are all Big Brother Dragon Marshal's subordinates, including me. Lin Jun looked around. So many subordinates. Can Big Brother take care of them all? You don't have to worry about that. Unless you're willing to follow a woman. The second, third, and fourth are all women, but that's useless. They're not Big Brother Dragon Marshal's match, and he doesn't take in subordinates. If you want to follow someone after the fifth, what future do you have? Is this Dragon Marshal that strong? Lin Jun asked. You really are new here. You haven't even heard of Big Brother Dragon Marshal's fame. Let me tell you, in the last 100,000 years, Dragon Marshal has been hailed as the universe's #1 genius. Tell me, is he strong or not? Universe's #1? Lin Jun froze for a moment, then found it funny. Lin Jun was only 70,000 years old, and someone dared to say that he was #1 in 100,000 years. You still don't believe me? You're probably cultivating on some remote planet, so you don't know much about the outside world. Do you know the person ranked second? Lin Jun. You're saying that Dragon Marshal is #1, and Lin Jun is #2. That's right. It's not just me who said it, but the quasi-rulers of Fantasy Town. Some of them experienced Lin Jun's era, and they believe that Dragon Marshal's strength is above Lin Jun's before he became a ruler. Lin Jun nodded indifferently. That's right. Then did Big Brother Dragon Marshal get a god crystal? If he wanted it, he would have gotten it long ago. Big Brother Dragon Marshal wants a special god crystal. He doesn't care about other god crystals. As long as he's here, he can suppress those women. Some people say that those women are Lin Jun's women. Doesn't that prove that Big Brother Dragon Marshal is stronger than Lin Jun? Lin Jun's expression turned cold. If it were a few years ago, he would have investigated the situation before making a decision. But now he didn't want to do that. He hadn't appeared for so many years, but these messy people actually jumped out and bullied his wives. Lin Jun sneered and said to the quasi-ruler, then go back and tell your Big Brother Dragon Marshal that since he doesn't want ordinary god crystals, he won't get any god crystals. What did you say? You don't want to live anymore? Lin Jun glared. Open your dog eyes and see who I am. The quasi-ruler finally realized that something was wrong. After looking carefully, he panicked. You're Lin. Before he finished speaking, Lin Jun sent out a mental attack, exploding his head on the spot. Lin Jun also needed points. If he wanted to enter the top 30 of the Divine Monument, then this person would be his first source of points. This quasi-ruler didn't even have a chance to react before he was sent out of Fantasy Town. If Lin Jun really wanted to kill him, he could definitely kill him when he got out. However, there was no need for that. Chapter 1430. In the eyes of some pseudo-dominators, Lin Jun's actions were a sign of fear. Using a scale to block a dominator rank golden holy dragon, wasn't this like a mantis trying to stop a chariot? They were already prepared to cheer for Martial Dragon and the golden holy dragon. They were about to witness the end of an era and the rise of a new one. Lin Jun's era belonged to the past. It was now Martial Dragon's era. This included Martial Dragon. Although he was surprised by Lin Jun's actions, he didn't believe that Lin Jun had the ability to reverse the situation. It wasn't that he didn't know about Lin Jun's past, but Martial Dragon believed that Lin Jun definitely had an expert helping him from behind. This was because he believed in Lin Jun's rationality more. His experiences were practically impossible to replicate. Lin Jun definitely couldn't be stronger than him. Behind Lin Jun's several major events, there should have been a perfect dominator helping him. For example, the lonely star fishing elder, or the fallen star dominator. However, what happened next left all of them dumbfounded. Lin Jun held the scale with both hands and directly raised it. The ferocious charging holy dragon seemed to have seen something terrifying. Its long dragon body hastily retracted. Its foreclaws fiercely clawed at the ground, creating 4 deep trenches. It was like a python that had suddenly braked. Its body was curled up into a ball. With such great effort, it almost collided with the scale. Lin Jun's lips curled up. It seems like a beast like you still knows what's in my hands. Today, I'll properly teach you a lesson. Raising the scale in his hands, Lin Jun fiercely smashed it at the golden holy dragon. You actually dare to be rude to me. I've even pried off this fellow's scale. Why would I care about a broken loach like you? Today, I'll let you know that this horse king has 3 eyes. The golden holy dragon was so frightened by Lin Jun's fierce beating that it used its 2 claws to cover its head and lay there shivering. Others didn't know what that scale was, but as a golden holy dragon from Beast King prison, it was very clear. That was the scale of the mystical dragon, and the mystical dragon was the ancestor of the entire universe's dragon race. Dragons like him had no ability to resist the mystical dragon. Not only was the mystical dragon their ancestor, it was also a perfected demonic beast. This Lin Jun was actually able to pull off the strange dragon scales. It was no match for him at all. Furthermore, the strength of the other party's dragon scales also proved this point. It was far from being a match for the other party. Lin Jun smashed the golden holy dragon for a while, beating it black and blue. Finally, he stopped. He raised his hand and took out the 9-palace purple gold bell. Lin Jun took off the first bell and hung it around the golden holy dragon's neck. If I accept you, are you willing? The golden holy dragon nodded repeatedly, expressing its agreement. Good. From today onwards, you'll follow me. Lin Jun scanned the gold holy dragon's mind with his mental power and discovered that there was a mental restraint in its mind. It should be under the dragon martial arts. The bindings were rather strange. There were some doors that were not easy to break, but it was useless against Lin Jun. The Heavenspan platform's 60,000 years of experience made Lin Jun's mental power grow to the perfected crystal formation realm. Dragon Marshall's bit of mental power was insignificant. A mental attack rushed out and directly broke it. On the opposite side, Dragon Marshall cried out and hugged his head with both hands, feeling incomparably painful. Only when Lin Jun beat up the golden holy dragon did Dragon Marshall feel how laughable his actions just now were. The other party was clearly not on the same level as him at all. He actually stubbornly thought that Lin Jun's previous results were exaggerated. No wonder the other party did not give him face at all, because there was no need to give face at all. The disparity between both parties was too great. This point could be seen from the other party directly breaking his mental soul lock. Lin Jun put the purple gold bell on the golden holy dragon. As long as this holy dragon did not die, it would not betray him. Furthermore, there was no need to worry about the control being broken. Lin Jun walked in front of Dragon Marshall at this time. The golden holy dragon also circled around him. Its eyes looking at Dragon Marshall were filled with hatred. It clearly remembered that it was controlled by Dragon Marshall. Of course, it did not have a good impression of him. Dragon Marshall saw the killing intent in Lin Jun's eyes. Dragon Marshall was afraid. He originally thought that they were on the same level and that he was even stronger than Lin Jun. Now, it seemed that he was a joke. At this time, Dragon Marshall realized that the hero he had always believed in was fearless. But now it was useless. He was also afraid of death. My teacher is Jade Buddha esteemed master, Lin Jun. You can't do anything to me. I don't know who Jade Buddha esteemed master is, and I don't need to know. Dragon Marshall, from the moment you started collecting points for my wife, your fate was already sealed. Lin Jun raised his hand and was about to attack Dragon Marshall. Dragon Marshall let out a strange cry. Seeing that negotiations were not going to work, he wanted to make a final gamble. He put his hands together, and in a golden light, his body seemed to be made of metal, shining brightly. Snow White said to Lin Jun from behind, "Husband, this is his invincible Vajra body. We can't do anything to it. It's just a small trick. Lin Jun waved his hand, and more than 140 million divine power surged out and slammed into Dragon Marshall. There was no need to understand his martial arts. One move was enough to defeat 10. Under such a huge impact of divine power, Dragon Marshall was directly eliminated. Lin Jun also went from being in the 300s on the Divine Monument to first place. Lin Jun did not care about the rankings. He took the initiative to leave Fantasy Town and went outside. Dragon Marshall was fleeing in panic. Lin Jun laughed coldly. He raised his hand and a bolt of chaos lightning shot out. Dragon Marshall was hit as expected. His body fell, and a black aura enveloped his entire body. That was Lin Jun's innate baleful death aura. The Radiant Dominator almost died from it, and Dragon Marshall was even worse. My teacher will enroll me. Before he could finish, he was killed by the death aura along with his divine infant. A peerless genius of a generation was turned into ashes just like that. Not only did a martial artist need to know how to cultivate, they also needed to have talent. They also needed to know when to advance and when to retreat. Martial Dragon had bullied a few women to protect his own position. Martial Dragon's personality was problematic, so it was not an injustice for him to die at Lin Jun's hands. Lin Jun did not care about killing Dragon Marshall. He had killed so many dominators, not to mention a mere pseudo-dominator. Although this pseudo-dominator was very strong and had a great background, at this stage, there were very few things that could make Lin Jun wary. Even a perfect dominator was the same. After settling all this, Lin Jun returned to Fantasy Town. The madams were not worried about Lin Jun at all. In their eyes, Lin Jun was already omnipotent. Facing a group of pseudo-dominators who were somewhat fearful, Lin Jun calmly announced, "From now on, after the Eternal Mountain descends, all of you in the top 30 will leave immediately. This is because the future Dominator's God Crystals will belong to my madams. No one else will have a share." His words were extremely domineering, but no one dared to object. Instead, they felt that it was natural. Chapter 14:31. Although these quasi-dominators didn't dare to say anything about Lin Jun's actions, it caused a huge uproar in the outside world. Some dominators reprimanded Lin Jun for bullying the weak. Although this kind of monopolizing Dominator God Crystals had happened before, no one dared to do it as brazenly as Lin Jun. However, reprimands were just reprimands. None of the Dominators came to Fantasy Realm Town to find Lin Jun for an explanation. After all, Lin Jun's actions of killing Dominators had given these people a huge shock. After Lin Jun was done with these things, he settled down in the town hall of Fantasy Realm Town. The madams weren't with him. Instead, they were still cultivating in their own cultivation spots. Lin Jun returned here mainly for this 100-fold cultivation spot. He wanted to use this period of time to perfect his Dominator battle skill. Now, Lin Jun's strength could be said to have reached a peak. He could break through and open a new universe at any time. At that time, he could also fuse with the Dominator God Crystal. The heavenly platform had been cultivated to the 34th level. His divine power had also reached an unprecedented level of 145 million. His mental power was at the great circle of Crystal Formation Realm. He could also use dimensional power and heavenly fiend death aura with ease. The only thing he lacked was a set of peak battle skills to support his spear arts. Just the combined dimensional attack alone wasn't enough to fight against peak experts. Moreover, after experiencing so much during this period of time, Lin Jun also had some understanding of how to create a Dominator battle skill. With his current aptitude, one day of cultivating in this 100-fold cultivation spot was equivalent to 10 million years. This cultivation spot allowed quasi-dominators to cultivate. Once he reached the Dominator realm, he wouldn't be able to come here anymore. Therefore, he had to cherish this last chance. Without giving anyone a chance, Lin Jun directly monopolized this 100-fold cultivation spot. Then, he began to cultivate wholeheartedly. One day of time was practically an eternity. Lin Jun had long gotten used to a long cultivation life. He was used to long periods of loneliness. The loneliness now was for the sake of not being lonely in the future. Sitting cross-legged on the cultivation spot, Lin Jun was creating a dominator battle skill. Every single sovereign has a sovereign battle skill that belongs to them, and they're all different. Perfect dominator, special dominator, honorable dominator, normal dominator. Every dominator has a different level of strength, so the effects of the battle skills they create are also very different. My current strength is comparable to that of a special dominator. In fact, my actual combat power is even stronger. However, I still haven't reached the level of a perfect dominator. But I have the strongest talent, and my soul's strength has already surpassed the Great Circle Realm. It's not impossible for me to create Great Circle Realm or even stronger battle skills. The battle skill that Lin Jun wanted to create this time was the essence of what he had learned in his lifetime. All of his power was gathered into 3 moves. The flowers were blooming, brilliant, withering. The first move, Blossom, was created based on the epiphany he gained when the chaotic green lotus bloomed. This move gathered the essence of the 8 elemental powers to form a chaotic windstorm. Although this attack wasn't a large-scale AoE attack like the dimensional combined attack, its concentrated lethality was above the dimensional combined attack. Chris had carefully calculated the power of this move. If it succeeded, it would be equivalent to a top-tier special dominator battle skill. The second move, Brilliant, was created based on his epiphany of the flowers in full bloom. He used the power of time and space to form a point of explosive power that he attached to his weapon. The power of this move, according to Chris's calculations, was comparable to that of a perfect dominator battle skill. As for the final move, Withering, it currently only existed in Lin Jun's imagination. Withering. This move used the innate baleful death chi as the foundation, combined with the dimensional power of the 2 universes. The death chi shuttled back and forth, and Lin Jun's divine power erupted to the limit, creating the strongest attack possible. In theory, this move could destroy any enemy. No matter who it was, they wouldn't be able to withstand the attack of 2 universes, let alone with the death chi lingering around them. If this move succeeded, Lin Jun didn't know how to pinpoint it. However, there was no doubt that this was a sure kill technique that surpassed even dominator battle skills. However, if this move wanted to succeed, there were too many problems. First of all, Lin Jun's Neoverse hadn't been born yet. This move didn't have the foundation to succeed, so it wasn't realistic. However, Lin Jun had to master the theoretical knowledge. The creation of every dominator battle skill had to go through hundreds of millions of experiments and rehearsals. All the details had to be done, and there couldn't be a single mistake. The first move Lin Jun had to learn was the first move, Blooming Flowers. This move was relatively simple, but it wasn't simple either. The combined attack of 8 elements involved too many conflicts of power. Combining them together was as difficult as ascending to the heavens. Fortunately, Lin Jun still had some time. According to Lone Star Fishing Old Man, there were still close to 1,000 years until the 3rd chaotic turbulence. During this time, Lin Jun was confident that he could learn the first 2 moves, but he didn't dare to say anything about the 3rd. Time began to flow slowly. At present, the universe wasn't peaceful. Dominators were gathering in the Beast King prison, and there were often deaths. This was also the basis for Lin Jun daring to wait here for a while. If no Dominator died, his wives wouldn't have a chance to obtain the Dominator's God Crystal. On Lin Jun's 130th year of cultivation, the Eternal Mountain descended. Lin Jun didn't move at all. This was a crucial time for him to cultivate the first move. His wives were enough. This time, a Wood-type Dominator's God Crystal descended. Ning Qingshuan's understanding of the wood type was very deep. No one dared to compete with her for this Dominator's God Crystal. Even if Lin Jun wasn't here, his 3 wives were enough to sweep through Fantasy Town. Moreover, he was here, so no one dared to cause trouble. After the top 30 entered, they immediately left. Ning Qingxian was the most successful person in the history of Fantasy Town. She successfully obtained this Dominator's God Crystal. Snow White and Baisu didn't fight for it. They happily congratulated Ning Qingxian for obtaining the Dominator's God Crystal. Ning Qingxian cultivated fusion and became a wood-type Dominator. She was the fourth Dominator among the Lin family's women. After Ning Qingxian became a Dominator, she went to the Beast King prison. Sunflower Scar and Feng Qingluan were there. On the 300th year, a water-type Dominator's God Crystal descended. At this time, Lin Jun had already learned the first move, Blossom. He was focused on the second move, Resplendent. He didn't have time to go over. This was a Wind-type Dominator's God Crystal. Bai Su cultivated the Wind-type. She took this Dominator's God Crystal. The little fox became the fifth Dominator among Lin Jun's women. She left for the Beast King prison. On the 412th year, a water-type Dominator's God Crystal arrived. It was taken by Snow White. However, Snow White didn't fuse with this Dominator's God Crystal. Instead, she had Lin Jun keep it. She was going to give it to a Ning when she returned home. After all, everyone already had a Dominator's God Crystal. A Ning couldn't go without one. Lin Jun accepted it with great satisfaction. Snow White continued to wait. On the 780th year, another Dominator's God Crystal arrived at the Mountain of Eternity. This time, it was a special Dominator's God Crystal. Chapter 1433. Lin Jun knew that Snow White was extremely talented and ambitious. She didn't care for ordinary sovereign God crystals. What she had been waiting for all this time was a special sovereign God crystal. Now, the opportunity had come. Bai Shui was determined to obtain this sovereign lord's special divine crystal. Lin Jun hadn't expected that the sovereign God crystal would perish. It should be known that it was almost impossible for a sovereign to perish in a normal era. Only now, when the aura of primal chaos was restless and the sovereigns were about to head to the Beast King prison, would they perish. From this, one could see how dangerous the situation in the Beast King prison was. There were less than 200 years before the aura of primal chaos would be completely restless. Lin Jun had to hurry over before then. Before the arrival of this sovereign God crystal, Lin Jun was still researching the second level of the sovereign God battle skill. Radiance. This move had reached a bottleneck. According to Lin Jun's plan, Flower Bloom was a special sovereign God battle skill, while Radiance was a perfect sovereign God battle skill. With Lin Jun's ability, creating a special sovereign God battle skill was still possible, but creating a perfect one was somewhat difficult. This was because his own strength hadn't reached perfection yet. Lin Jun had originally thought that the gap between a perfect sovereign and a special sovereign shouldn't be too great. After all, they were both sovereigns. But at this moment, he finally understood how huge the gap between the two was. Perfection was the fusion of all things in the universe and the principles of heaven and earth into one's own realm. Moreover, one's own divine power had reached the highest limit, the limit. At this point, one could say that one had reached the peak of the martial path. There was a world of difference between them and those sovereigns who relied on sovereign God crystals. A perfect sovereign God battle skill wasn't something an ordinary person could create. Lin Jun found it extremely difficult to create one without fusing with a sovereign God crystal. One day was like 10 million years, or even several hundred years. Lin Jun couldn't even remember how long he had been through. But this move still felt like it was missing something. Time, space, fast and slow, real and fake, all of my divine power should be concentrated at a single point. I've already practiced the theory of this move millions of times. There shouldn't be any problems. When the flower blooms, the explosion after the spear strikes is just like the blooming of a flower. In terms of artistic conception, I have no problems either. There's also the mental state when I attack. I've trained my mental state with various mental states. In the end, I've determined that when I attack with my spear, there must be no smoke or fire aura. When it explodes, it'll be like time and space collapsing, turning the world upside down. When the moves, the state of mind, and the concept are combined, there will always be problems. There will be stuttering and incoherence, resulting in failure at the final step. Lin Jun put down the primal chaos lotus spear in his hand, feeling somewhat dejected in his heart. Sure enough, he was still lacking in terms of ability. Even if his talent was heaven-defying and his potential was unparalleled, it was still a bit too much for him to create a battle skill that only a perfect sovereign could use as a sovereign. Lin Jun looked at the time. It had only been 200 years since the chaotic aura that lonely star fishing old man had mentioned. He still had 2 more moves that he had not created yet. If he went to the Beast King prison like this, Lin Jun felt that he would not be able to turn the situation around. I've already done my best. I can only take it one step at a time. Lin Jun sensed the primal chaos green lotus within his body. The power of a Neoverse had been suppressed by him for the time being. As long as he willed it, he would be able to make it surge out. However, before that happened, Lin Jun couldn't be at ease unless he completed the second form of the ruler's battle skill. At this time, the Mountain of Eternity descended. A few days ago, there had been news that the Sovereign of Freedom had fallen. Thus, the Mountain of Eternity's descent wasn't strange. Lin Jun also knew about this. As the first placeholder of the Heavenly Steel, Lin Jun would automatically be sent to the Mountain of Eternity. The last few times, Lin Jun had withdrawn as soon as he arrived, allowing his wives to obtain the divine crystals on their own. This time, he planned to do the same. After entering the Mountain of Eternity, Snow White was right behind him. "Husband, I'll go by myself in a bit. Don't delay your cultivation." Snow White also knew that Lin Jun was at a critical point in his cultivation and didn't want to disturb him. Lin Jun nodded. Just as he was about to leave, he suddenly stopped in his tracks and turned around, his gaze fixed on the summit. The delusion breaker pierced through the fog, allowing him to see the situation at the summit. Next to the Sovereign of Freedom's divine crystal, there was a person sitting in the lotus position. He was dressed in green robes that were tied up like a llama's, revealing one shoulder and arm. His hair was extremely short, like that of a monk's, but it was somewhat longer. He had a benevolent appearance, giving one a good impression of him. He seemed to be a senior monk who had attained the Tao. But Lin Jun didn't think that this person was a senior monk, even though he looked like one. Martial artists who had cultivated to this level didn't have much compassion in their hearts. If they weren't selfish and smart, they wouldn't have lived to this day. Moreover, the person at the summit was a sovereign. Although Lin Jun didn't recognize him, this was the first time he had seen him. But Lin Jun knew who he was. This was a special sovereign who had obtained the Sovereign of Fallen Stars' divine crystal. He was currently ranked 3rd among the sovereigns, and he was suspected to have reached the peak of the sovereign realm. The Jade Buddha Sovereign. Shua. It seems like we're in a bit of trouble. Come with me. Seeing Lin Jun's grave expression, Snow White didn't say anything. She silently followed behind Lin Jun. As for the other Heaven Monument members who had entered the Eternal Mountain, when they saw Lin Jun and Snow White, they all chose to leave. In truth, they were also very happy. If Snow White left after fusing with the divine crystal, Lin Jun's woman wouldn't be here. Then, Lin Jun would probably leave as well. At that time, the competition within the Eternal Mountain would return to normal. After passing through the chaotic airflow, Lin Jun brought Snow White to the summit. This was also Snow White's first time seeing the Jade Buddha Sovereign. This person's body was shimmering with light, like a Buddha statue carved from white jade. A white divine crystal floated in front of him. The airflow around it didn't affect it, the wind didn't blow, and the clouds didn't move. It was like walking into a painting. Snow White couldn't help but reveal a trace of confusion in her eyes. This scene made it impossible for her to tell whether it was a dream or reality. This was the power of a perfected ruler. Just by sitting there, the aura he formed could easily affect an expert like Snow White. Lin Jun, however, wasn't affected. Seeing that Snow White's situation wasn't right, he immediately shouted, "Enough! Since you're here, don't use such underhanded methods. Tell me why you're here." Space rippled, and that strange aura disappeared. Snow White was startled awake. When she looked at the Jade Buddha Sovereign again, she even revealed a look of fear. The Jade Buddha Sovereign still didn't open his eyes. He sat there cross-legged and slowly spoke. "Lin Jun, I am Venerable Jade Buddha, an enforcer of the Supreme Council." Oh, a monk actually became an enforcer? How rare. Chapter 1434. Facing Jade Buddha, esteemed master, Lin Jun was neither impatient nor in a hurry to fight. Instead, he pointed at Snow White and said, "You said that I was restricted from obtaining the deity crystal. Then my wife should be qualified to obtain it. Now that there are only the two of us on this mountain, she should obtain the deity crystal." Jade Buddha, esteemed master, still didn't open his eyes. "Yes, but Lin Jun, I have to tell you something. Not only will the highest council prohibit you from obtaining the deity crystal, but they will also take your life. As an enforcer, after you leave the Eternal Mountain, I will shut down the operation of Fantasy Town and kill you." His tone was very calm, as if it was as simple as eating and drinking, but the content was shocking. Lin Jun narrowed his eyes slightly. "Okay, since the highest council has decided, I have nothing else to say. You don't have to shut down Fantasy Town. I will come out." "That's good." Jade Buddha, esteemed master, nodded. Lin Jun let Snow White go and collect the deity crystal. Snow White walked over and took the special ruler deity crystal. "Go and fuse with it, then go to the Beast King prison and meet up with them. Everyone must be missing you." Snow White looked at Lin Jun, gave him a hug, and then turned to leave. Although Lin Jun was facing a perfect ruler, after so many years, Snow White had already recognized Lin Jun's miraculous abilities. She believed that her husband could definitely get through this safely. After the Eternal Mountain left, Lin Jun waited in Fantasy Town for her to complete the fusion. The next day, after Snow White completed the fusion and left Fantasy Town, Lin Jun also stood up and walked out of Fantasy Town. This was the last time he would be in Fantasy Town. After leaving this time, there was no need for him to return. After walking out of the town, Lin Jun scanned with his delusion breaker eye and then stepped into the starry sky. After three-dimensional positioning, Lin Jun saw Jade Buddha, esteemed master, about 1,000,000 light years away from Fantasy Town. This was a floating continent. It was desolate and barren, with not even a blade of grass growing. The land under his feet was as hard as metal and surprisingly dense. "You've come." This time, Jade Buddha, esteemed being, was standing. His body was glowing like a statue. "Where's this place?" "This place is called the Colosseum Continent. Since ancient times, this place has been the place where super experts fought. Every inch of land has been refined countless times, enough to ensure that it will not be destroyed. It is the best place for true super experts to settle their grudges. At the same time, it is also the place that the highest council chose to kill those who disobey them. It seems that my existence is not accepted." Jade Buddha, venerable master, revealed a benevolent smile. "Do you even need to ask?" Before he could finish speaking, a sudden change occurred. It was not that Jade Buddha Shangren had launched an attack, but that the surrounding environment had changed. The arena continent disappeared and was replaced by an incomparably huge palm. The palm was boundless, like a kingdom. Heavenly flowers fell from his palm. Golden lotuses sprouted from the ground, and auspicious clouds floated in the air. It was like a heavenly scene. Countless Buddhist soldiers stood in the surroundings, holding various Buddhist weapons in their hands. There were Buddhist staffs, sabers, and so on. Their expressions were solemn. In the sky, an incomparably huge Buddha had appeared. It looked like the head of Jade Buddha. With his eyes still closed, Jade Buddha, venerable master, slowly spoke. "Lin Jun, the time has come to accept your punishment. Today, you will repent in my Buddhist kingdom until the end of your life." At first, Lin Jun thought that this was an illusion created by the Jade Buddha, venerable master. With a cold snort, he scanned with the delusion breaker eye. However, after scanning, he was shocked to discover that he was actually wrong. This was not an illusion, but a real world. This was the Jade Buddha, venerable master's divine realm. Just like the Radiant Sovereign's Radiance divine realm, this was the Jade Buddha, venerable master's divine realm. The countless Buddhist soldiers in the surroundings were the people living in this divine realm. However, these people were ridiculously strong. Lin Jun saw that the hundreds of millions of people all had the strength of a peak quasi-juggernaut. Among them, a few of the taller Buddhas actually had the strength of a juggernaut. How is this possible? There are only 81 juggernauts in the entire universe. Why are there juggernauts in your Buddhist kingdom? A frog at the bottom of a well knows nothing of the boundless universe. Linjun, go to hell with your questions. As soon as Jade Buddha, Venerable Master, spoke, the hundreds of millions of Buddhist soldiers in the surroundings began to attack Linjun. In an instant, the sky was filled with chanting, and the ground was filled with killing intent. When these Buddhist soldiers charged, they were actually more effective than any other army. Linjun raised his hand, and the primal chaos lotus spear appeared. Jade Buddha, Venerable Master, you're underestimating me. If you want to rely on these Buddhist soldiers of yours to do anything to me, you're still 1,000,000 years too early. The primal chaos lotus spear appeared, and it was a dimensional combined attack. However, the dimensional combined attack, which had always been successful, was actually less effective here. The space cracked like a spider web, but it didn't collapse like in the past. With the support of a juggernaut, the number of Buddhist soldiers devoured by space was not many. Linjun, this is a perfected juggernaut's divine realm. The stability of space is beyond your imagination. Save it. As countless Buddhist soldiers attacked, Linjun no longer had the chance to continue using the dimensional combined attack. He could only brandish his spear and engage in melee combat. Even in melee combat, Linjun was not afraid at all. Wherever the lotus spear went, no one could block it. Those pseudo-juggernauts could be killed with a single spear. Even juggernauts could not block more than a few moves from Linjun. With his current strength, even special juggernauts could not match him. At least a dozen or even a few people died under Linjun's spear every second. Linjun did not believe that Jade Buddha, Venerable Master, had enough Buddhist soldiers for him to kill. After all, it was not easy to nurture a pseudo-juggernaut. However, as he killed and killed, Linjun discovered that something was wrong. The Buddhist soldiers here died, but there were still more coming from the distance. Their numbers showed no signs of decreasing. How is this possible? Why are the Buddhist soldiers here not decreasing? They seem to be reviving. Using the delusion breaker eye, Linjun quickly discovered the problem. Every time he killed a Buddhist soldier here, another one would appear at the edge of the Buddhist kingdom. If he killed 10, another 10 would appear. It was a never-ending cycle. Even if he killed a juggernaut, a new one would appear. What's going on? Up in the sky, Venerable Master Jade Buddha slowly said, Linjun, this is the Buddhist kingdom in my palm. Buddhists speak of karma and reincarnation. My subjects are all in the cycle of reincarnation. No matter how many times you kill them, they will reappear here. As long as life lasts, so does the battle. Linjun, no matter how strong you are, you will eventually die of exhaustion here. Let's see how long you can last. 1,000 years? 10,000 years? I'll wait and see. As the first wave of Buddhist soldiers fell, another wave of Buddhist soldiers charged forward in a frenzy. Chapter 1435. It wasn't that Linjun hadn't faced a sea of enemies before. In fact, he had faced hundreds of millions of enemies countless times and easily won. The problem was that this time was different. Not only could he not instantly kill a large number of enemies, but they could also resurrect endlessly. This was very troublesome. The enemy wasn't some random cat or dog. Even the weakest was a peak pseudo-ruler. With Linjun's current strength, peak pseudo-rulers couldn't do any real damage to him, but they could still exhaust some of his strength. Even an Iron Man would get tired one day if he kept on exhausting his strength. Once he got tired, it would be the beginning of his defeat. Those sovereigns could still cause Linjun some light injuries, not to mention that esteemed Jade Buddha hadn't even attacked yet. This method of fighting was an endless cycle, one that would exhaust the opponent to death. However, Linjun wasn't someone who would just stand there and wait for death. He had his own way of fighting. Facing the supreme peak sovereigns, Linjun wielded his lotus flower spear and flew into the air. His target was the esteemed Jade Buddha in the sky. His body transformed into a meteor as he charged straight for the enormous Buddha statue. Esteemed Jade Buddha calmly said, "It's useless. This is my God realm, and I am the ruler of this world. I am everywhere but nowhere. You can't attack me." Linjun brandished his spear and stabbed out. 8 times the sun wheel seal. The void trembled, but the Buddha statue in front of him transformed into a streak of light and disappeared without a trace. Then, in the distant sky, the Buddha statue reappeared, occupying half the horizon. The countless pseudo-rulers on the ground continued to attack Lin Jun like a tide. Lin Jun brandished his spear, killing a group of pseudo-rulers as easily as spilling water. Then, he transformed into a meteor and attacked the Jade Buddha sovereign again. The result was the same. He only hid an illusion. For the third time, Lin Jun attacked again. Esteemed Jade Buddha shook his head slightly. Lin Jun, I thought you were a martial arts genius. I didn't expect you to be so stupid. It's useless to tell you. Even if you do it 100 times, it'll be useless. You can't hurt me at all. The primal chaos lotus spear in Lin Jun's hand emitted a brilliant light that spanned across the entire horizon. The elemental energy within the Buddhist kingdom was attracted by Lin Jun's primal chaos lotus spear. It gathered together, forming a mighty storm. A massive wave of energy instantly converged at the tip of Lin Jun's spear in an unscientific manner. A lotus seemed to be blooming at the tip of the spear. Even esteemed Jade Buddha, who was in the sky, paled at the sight. Not bad, but it's a pity that it still can't hurt me. The spear fiercely pierced forward, and the Buddha disappeared once again. However, Lin Jun's attack did not stop. His target was not the Buddha in the sky at all. Instead, it was the spatial barrier between the Buddha kingdom and the God realm. The divine realm was also a real world, and it also had a spatial barrier. It was just that it was much smaller in comparison. Since Lin Jun could not hit esteemed Jade Buddha, then his goal was to break this world's fetters. I'll shatter this world of yours. Let's see how you're going to let your Buddhist weapon reincarnate. Lin Jun's body suddenly accelerated to superluminal speed. Strands of elemental energy formed a chaotic airflow and exploded with a single point of power. It directly bombarded the Buddha kingdom's spatial barrier. Bam! The sky was like a mirror, and many cracks appeared. The God realm in the palm was almost pierced through by Lin Jun's spear. Esteemed Jade Buddha, who was in the sky, opened his eyes for the first time. What powerful destructive power! Lin Jun, I've underestimated you. His eyes had been closed all this time, but when he opened them, a mighty wave of divine power surged out. Lin Jun could truly feel the power of a perfected sovereign. That enormous pressure was something that the current Lin Jun could not bear. Not good. This esteemed Jade Buddha's godly power is definitely above 200 million. With 145 million points of godly power, Lin Jun felt that he could laugh proudly among the heroes. However, he did not expect that there would always be a higher mountain. The godly power of a perfected sovereign was actually this terrifying. Esteemed Jade Buddha opened his eyes and waved his hands. Waves of godly power filled the sky and quickly restored it. When Lin Jun saw this, he rose into the sky again and unleashed another explosive attack with his spear. Flowers bloom. Another wave of elemental energy surged. Although the sky was still slightly cracked, it did not shatter. Under esteemed Jade Buddha's waves of godly power, the sky was restored in almost a second. Lin Jun, your sovereign's battle skill is not bad. You actually have 8 types of elemental energy combined to attack. However, it's a pity that you're facing a perfected world. This world has no flaws. Your attack is unable to truly shatter this world. That's not necessarily true. Lin Jun did not believe in heresy. He raised his spear and sent all the pseudo-sovereigns flying. His godly power erupted as he charged into the void again. This time, Lin Jun used time acceleration. Under the effects of time acceleration, Lin Jun's attack speed suddenly increased by 24 times. Spear lightning, combo attack. Wave after wave of flower bloom battle skills fiercely attacked, instantly causing the sky to tremble. Not good. Esteemed Jade Buddha was finally unable to remain calm. He did not expect that Lin Jun actually had such an ability. He was caught unprepared. Seeing that Lin Jun was about to shatter his divine world, his benevolent appearance disappeared without a trace. Instead, his face revealed a trace of malevolence. Lin Jun, it seems that I still underestimated you. Accept the true punishment. Esteemed Jade Buddha opened his mouth and chanted Sanskrit words. These Sanskrit words formed characters that linked together in the sky. They were like ropes that began to wrap around Lin Jun. Lin Jun tried to dodge, but these characters seemed to have a life of their own. They chased after him like maggots. No matter how hard he tried, he could not dodge. Soon, Lin Jun was surrounded by Sanskrit characters. He was unable to escape no matter how hard he tried. Then, the characters began to shrink. Lin Jun, don't waste your energy. This is my perfect dominator battle skill, the Sanskrit heavenly prison. Anyone with divine power weaker than me won't be able to break it. Even your dominator battle skill can't do that. When the heavenly prison closes, your body and soul will be destroyed. There is no need for you to fight like a cornered beast. In this universe, no one can go against the will of the Supreme Council. Esteemed Jade Buddha clasped his hands together, and Sanskrit words continuously entered. The characters became denser and denser, and the space for Lin Jun to move became smaller and smaller. Brandishing his lotus flower spear, Lin Jun's flower bloomed again and again could not break the heavenly prison. This heavenly prison's tenacity surpassed his divine world. Chapter 1436. At that moment, Lin Jun felt like he was facing the entire universe. He never imagined that esteemed Jade Buddha's perfected combat technique would be so mysterious. This was a special combat skill that he had specially developed by combining his spiritual force with his unique secret method. It was a completely different path from Lin Jun's. Lin Jun's martial Tao pursued the most yang, the most destructive and destructive power. If Lin Jun and esteemed Jade Buddha were at the same realm, Lin Jun was confident that he could break through this move. However, under such circumstances, Lin Jun was helpless. He had already pushed his divine power to the limit, but he was still unable to break free from the shackles. An intense, suffocating feeling came over him. It was unknown how long it had been since he last felt this way. Even if a god's body was destroyed, the divine infant could still survive. Therefore, breathing was not a critical issue. However, esteemed Jade Buddha's shackles not only restricted the body, but also the divine infant, psyche, and soul. If he was killed by the Sanskrit characters here, he would truly die. This was the Buddhist kingdom of the palm. He cannot be revived even if he reversed time. Ka ka ka. The gaps between the characters were tightly locked, one after another. Lin Jun's hands and feet were tightly bound. The lotus flower spear could no longer be brandished. It fell to the ground with a clang. He could not even retract it. Creak, creak. His muscles and bones let out a strong protest. If his body was weaker, he would have died a quick death. However, Lin Jun's body was strong. The pain he had to endure was several times greater. On his forehead, a series of characters interlocked with each other. They were used to destroy his spiritual sea. On his throat, a character was used to confine him. It prevented him from breathing or supplying blood to his brain. On his chest, a character was used to destroy his heart and organs. On his waist, it was used to destroy his dantian and sea of qi. There were also countless tiny characters that restrained his hands and feet. He could not resist at all. The deadly Sanskrit chants continued to attack, forming even more characters that filled the sky. They were determined to kill Lin Jun in one strike. Esteemed Jade Buddha was in the sky. His huge Buddha statue covered the sky as his lips kept uttering sounds. This situation seemed to have become a foregone conclusion. There was no way to change it. Master, Master, quickly pull yourself together. You still have a way. Chris was calling out to Lin Jun, and she was a little dizzy. Lin Jun now had a choice to turn the tables. That was to immediately let the chaotic green lotus within his body bloom and allow the new universe to completely break free. When the power of the universe rose, even if the ruler's god crystal didn't fuse immediately, he could still use the power of the new universe to destroy Jade Buddha, ruler's god kingdom. After all, A small god kingdom could not accommodate the birth of a new universe. But Lin Jun didn't want to do that. After all, he had yet to fully comprehend the second move of the sovereign battle skill, Brilliant Radiance. If he couldn't comprehend this move before he became a ruler, it would be Lin Jun's lifelong regret. He wasn't someone who liked to leave behind regrets. At this time, the only person who could communicate with Lin Jun was Chris. Chris was an AI, so she hadn't been imprisoned. She was still in Lin Jun's mind, trying her best to communicate with Lin Jun. If Lin Jun died, Chris would cease to exist. Therefore, she couldn't let Lin Jun die. In Chris's opinion, as long as the new universe was opened, everything would be fine. There wouldn't be so much trouble. Therefore, she tried her best to make Lin Jun break through as soon as possible and resolve the difficult situation before them. Lin Jun's body was on the verge of collapse. Those runes had already penetrated deep into his flesh. However, he still didn't do as Chris said. Instead, he said to Chris, "Chris, you are an AI. Can you analyze the best solution for me right now?" Okay. I can understand Master's desire to break through now. But no matter how you break through, you must first ensure that you are alive. Otherwise, you will lose everything. I will immediately analyze a plan for you. Chris calculated quickly and quickly came up with a plan for Lin Jun. "Master, I've calculated that your body can hold on for another 10 seconds at most. Therefore, you have to comprehend it within 9 seconds. After 9 seconds, you must immediately activate the power of the new universe. This way, you will have the most time to comprehend it without losing your life. Only 9 seconds left. That's right, 9 seconds. If you exceed this time, you might die. Now, there are only 7 seconds left." Chris spoke quickly, hoping that Lin Jun would move faster. Lin Jun closed his eyes and didn't say anything. There wasn't much he could say at the moment. This was a difficult choice. Generally speaking, it was normal to have the life to earn money and spend it. No matter how important a breakthrough was, it wasn't as important as one's life. Unknowingly, Lin Jun somewhat agreed with Chris's way of thinking. However, it was easier said than done. Even if this method worked, how could Lin Jun guarantee that he would break through within 7 seconds? How could he master this brilliant move? Where exactly was the difference? At this moment, Lin Jun had no clue. 5 seconds had passed in that moment of astonishment and stupefaction. "Master, there are 2 more seconds. Hurry." In the sky, Venerable Jade Buddha smiled. It seemed like it was over. Lin Jun was done for. Lin Jun lowered his head. 1 more second. "Master, hurry up and activate the Chaos Green Lotus. There's no time to think." Chris's voice was hoarse for the first time. At this moment, as an artificial life, she could clearly feel fear. She was afraid of her own death and her master's death. However, she was only an artificial life. There was nothing she could do. The last second passed in Chris's fear. "It's over." Chris lowered her head. If her master died, she would die with him. There was nothing she could do now. She could only wait for death to come. Time seemed to have stopped at this moment. Faintly, Chris heard Lin Jun's voice. "Chris, do you know the meaning of life?" The meaning of life? Chris was confused. As an artificial life, she did not need to think about these things. However, thinking back, she seemed to have thought of something. Life. She wanted to live well. She did not want to die. She did not want to lose her consciousness. This was what she wanted. "I'm afraid. That's why you can only be an AI. Let me tell you, everyone is afraid of death and always draws a line for themselves. What can be done and what can't be done, what is dangerous and what is safe. For example, the time you gave me just now. If I followed it, wouldn't I be like those people?" Chris did not know how to answer. Lin Jun did not want her to answer. Instead, he continued, "Actually, most of the time, what really crushes you is not the enemy, but your fear of death. Once you take that step, life and death are no longer scary." "Master, what do you mean? I no longer fear death. After surviving the last second, I'm not even afraid of death. Why would I be afraid of this venerable Jade Buddha?" Faintly, Chris seemed to hear Lin Jun's chuckle. There was contempt and mockery. Most of all, there was arrogance. In the vast universe, who else but me? If I don't transcend life and death, how can I bloom brilliantly? Clang. Chapter 1437. High up in the sky, Jade Buddha saw this scene. Lin Jun, who had been wrapped in layers of Sanskrit characters like a cocoon, had actually managed to reverse his fate on the verge of death. Even esteemed Jade Buddha thought that he had died, but in reality, he hadn't. The primal chaos lotus spear rose from the ground, piercing through the Sanskrit characters and arriving in Lin Jun's hands. Not good. Jade Buddha esteemed being's expression changed drastically. Both of his hands repeatedly formed a Mahamudra. Runes rained down like a storm, trying to kill off Lin Jun's resistance. In an instant, Sanskrit chants filled the sky. Lightning flashed and thunder roared. The entire Buddhist kingdom within the palm was swaying in the wind and rain. But all of this couldn't stop the golden light that soared into the sky. Lin Jun had withstood that 1 second of death. Although crazy had given him a limit of 9 seconds, and he would die in another second, Lin Jun had persisted. In that moment, he gained a trace of enlightenment. What he lacked was no longer spear technique, concept, state of mind, and so on. The annihilation of life and the blossoming of life were all in a single thought. After this second, he was destined to be brilliant. If he didn't succeed, he would die trying. If he feared it, he would never pass. If he defeated it, the road to heaven would be right in front of him. It was also in that moment that Lin Jun understood the profound meaning of brilliance. The primal chaos lotus spear returned. With the spear in his hand, Lin Jun's body shook. The surrounding Sanskrit characters retreated 3 feet. Lin Jun laughed. As expected, this is a decent ruler combat skill. It's full of skill, but in the face of absolute destructive power, it's only SOSO. He waved his spear and brazenly attacked. Brilliance! A blue lotus bloomed around Lin Jun's body. The spear pierced out from the stamen of the lotus, stabbing into the cocoon-like characters. Bang! Like fireworks in the middle of the night, the Sanskrit characters formed a heavenly net and loudly exploded in the air. Although this was a perfect ruler combat skill, Lin Jun's brilliance was also a perfect ruler combat skill. In the end, a skill-based combat skill wasn't as practical as a destructive combat skill. It was defeated on the spot. Impossible. You've actually comprehended a perfect sovereign's battle skill? How is that possible? Jade Buddha, esteemed being's expression, had turned ferocious as he roared in the sky, with a face full of resentment. Lin Jun pointed with his lotus flower spear. If I'm not wrong, your main body isn't here. The one in the sky right now is just your avatar. Jade Buddha Shangren was stunned. You actually saw through it? Perfect dominator. Your greatest ability is still to personally fight. You won't be able to display your full strength through your avatar. Perhaps you believe that this will be enough to deal with me. You're too impatient to avenge your disciple. Lin Jun gripped the spear shaft with both hands. Although I don't know why you can't come here personally, you can't rely on your clone to deal with me. Pay the price for your arrogance. He leaped into the air and unleashed a brilliant strike. As the lotus bloomed, the spear smashed heavily against the barrier of the god realm. No, Jade Buddha esteemed being let out an indignant roar. His avatar was finally unable to continue floating in the sky and took the initiative to block Lin Jun. However, he couldn't block this strike. After Lin Jun comprehended a perfect sovereign's battle skill, unless his main body came, no one below perfect sovereign was a match for him. The avatar was killed by Lin Jun in a single strike, and his body drifted down. Before his body landed on the ground, the god realm began to collapse. The perfect sovereign's god realm was finally pierced by Lin Jun's spear and began to collapse completely. The countless quasi-sovereigns on the ground no longer had the support of the reincarnation power. As the god realm collapsed, they began to die on a large scale. The weaker ones died instantly, while the stronger ones perished after a while. In the end, they couldn't escape death. Lin Jun was in the sky and witnessed the collapse of a world with his own eyes. Jade Buddha esteemed being's god realm collapsed. Although it wouldn't kill him immediately, it was enough to deal him a fatal blow. Although the god realm could be repaired, it would never return to its peak state. It couldn't return to how it was before. Lin Jun was certain that after this blow, Jade Buddha, esteemed being, would never be able to maintain his perfect realm. His realm would fall. He might become a special sovereign, or he might fall to a venerated sovereign. However, it was more likely that he would become an ordinary sovereign. Perhaps he would have to spend most of the rest of his life slowly repairing the god world. Otherwise, he wouldn't be able to maintain his sovereign level, and would fall to the level of quasi-sovereigns and god-kings. In any case, one thing was certain. This newly ascended perfect sovereign would fall from his pedestal. As he watched the god realm collapse and space collapse, Lin Jun couldn't help but sigh in his heart. If Jade Buddha, esteemed being, hadn't come looking for trouble and wanted to kill him, he wouldn't have fallen to such a state. Fortunately, Jade Buddha, esteemed being, wasn't his main body. If it was, Lin Jun would have to open a new universe immediately and wouldn't have the chance to comprehend this move. A few seconds later, the god realm dissipated and the scene of the battle stage continent appeared. Lin Jun went with the flow and simply sat there. This time, he had taken a risk and comprehended a perfect sovereign battle skill. Lin Jun no longer had any regrets in his heart. At this point, he could take another crucial step forward. That was to become a sovereign. Lin Jun had been waiting for this step for far too long. After comprehending radiance, Lin Jun's mental state had reached perfection. This breakthrough would definitely bring about astonishing results. Lin Jun used his psychic power to look inside himself. Within the god realm, in the heart of the starfruit tree's tree heart lake, the heart of the chaos green lotus, the primal chaos energy within the lotus seed had already accumulated to a limit. There were two balls of light within it. One was the sovereign god crystal, and the other was the second treasure born from the primal chaos. At this time, the sovereign god crystal had matured and was spinning in the primal chaos. Lin Jun took a deep breath. On this trip to the Beast King prison, he would face all of the sovereigns and their Yao beasts. Esteemed Jade Buddha definitely wasn't the strongest. He had to be strong enough to protect himself. The Neoverse had been nurtured enough. It was time to activate it. Before that, Lin Jun took a look at the current ranking of sovereigns. First place, Mythic Sovereign. Second place, Lone Star Sovereign. Third place, Sunflower Sovereign. Esteemed Jade Buddha had already fallen out of the top 3. As for Sunflower Scar, a special sovereign, he was in third place. After him were the Solok Sovereign, the Twin Tree Sovereign, and so on. Lin Jun closed the sovereign rankings and turned his gaze to the Chaos Green Lotus. He wondered if he'd appear in the sovereign rankings after his breakthrough. With a thought, a vast aura of primal chaos covered the entire battle stage continent. Chapter 1438. Beast King Prison was located in the northwest of the universe. If the universe was an oval-shaped egg, then Beast King Prison would be the bottom of the egg. Different from the vast universe, there were no stars here since the beginning of time. Where there were no stars, there was no light or heat. Darkness. Absolute darkness. Even if you put your finger in front of your eyes, if you didn't have night vision, you wouldn't be able to see anything. This was a corner of the universe, a place of hell. The so-called Beast King Prison was a cold continent. The continent was very big, so big that it was bigger than a few galaxies combined. There was no average temperature here, because the temperature was always like that. It was negative 200 degrees Celsius, close to the freezing point of absolute zero. It was absolutely impossible for ordinary life forms to survive here. And the life forms that could survive in this place were not ordinary. Although this place wasn't suitable for most life forms, it had an advantage, and that was water and abundant spiritual energy. This place was only suitable for the most powerful life forms. Ordinary life forms couldn't survive here. For powerful life forms, it was a cultivation holy land. And the natives of this place were only savage beasts. In a place with damp, dark, and baleful energy, there naturally wouldn't be ordinary savage beasts. Since the birth of the universe, the 81 Beast Kings had developed and evolved here, gradually forming their own race. Here, the most ordinary savage beast had the strength of a quasi-god king. The slightly stronger ones were god kings. Those savage beasts were quasi-dominators. For martial artists below sovereign level, this place was hell. Wanting to survive here for even a day was an impossible task. In the southeast of Beast King Prison, there was an undulating ice mountain range. As if a cold wind from hell blew past the ice mountain, the cold currents seemed to freeze the air. An ice dragon crawled out from the ice mountain. This dragon was 7 to 8 meters long, with a fiery red tongue. Its eyes glowed red. Although there was no light here, it could still see everything in the darkness with its eyes. In fact, without night vision, it was impossible to survive in Beast King Prison, so the life forms here had already evolved with this ability. This dragon seemed to have been hiding underground for a long time, burrowing out from the hard as iron ground. Its tongue rolled a few times, cutting off a few pieces of ice that hadn't melted for billions of years. After chewing for a while, it used the ice as water to replenish itself. After replenishing its water, the earth dragon felt a little hungry. It needed to find something to eat. The earth dragon was a pseudo-dominator rank savage beast. It was very picky when it came to food. Although ordinary meat could be eaten, it was not nutritious, so it did not like to eat it. What the ferocious beast here really wanted to eat was the flesh of creatures that contained spiritual energy and had undergone cultivation. It could be the flesh of other vicious beasts in the Beast King Prison, or it could be the flesh of cultivators who had come here to fight but were killed in the end. Eating a piece of that meat was 100 times more effective than eating 1,000 tons of ordinary meat. However, there were a lot of ferocious beasts here. The earth dragon didn't dare to attack other ferocious beasts. It could only search slowly. Its long tongue curled. It could sense the smell of all flesh and blood within millions of kilometers from the wind that blew past the iceberg. After sniffing in the wind for a while, its eyes suddenly lit up. North! There was the smell of food in the north. The earth dragon's eyes shone with excitement. It spread its foreclaws and began to run north. One step was 10,000 kilometers. It could pass through a large expanse of icebergs and snowfields. 5 million kilometers was covered in less than a minute. The earth dragon slowed down and cautiously stopped. It could sense that its food was on the other side of the iceberg. Its body became cold, the same color as the iceberg. It was almost impossible to distinguish. Even its breathing had stopped. It silently glided on the ice and slowly approached its target. This was an instinct it had trained for countless years. It was a hunting technique it was proud of. Slowly sliding across the peak, it stuck its head out and glanced at the other side. After a glance, it was unable to move. It wasn't that it couldn't move, but that it was too scared to move. Because here, it saw too many powerful existences. Beast kings and cultivators. Each one of them could instantly kill it. They were all dominator rank. A group of beast kings and a cultivator seemed to be discussing something. The earth dragon didn't even dare to breathe loudly. It restrained all of its aura and almost merged with the ice. Fortunately, the wind was blowing from that side, so it wouldn't be exposed for the time being. There were 5 or 6 vicious beasts in the group. They were all dragon vicious beasts with dominator rank battle strength. And what it feared the most was a vicious beast that looked a bit like a big dog among the beast kings. That was the king of the dragon race, the Wonder Dragon. The Earth Dragon was also a kind of dragon. It had the dragon bloodline and was innately afraid of the Wonder Dragon. It had seen the Wonder Dragon once in the past. When it returned, it was so scared that it lost control of its bladder and trembled for more than 10 years. It didn't expect to see it again today. In its opinion, the Wonder Dragon was the most powerful, vicious beast in the Beast King prison. But now the Wonder Dragon was discussing something with the cultivator opposite it. It seemed like both sides were on equal footing. From this, it could be seen that the cultivator's strength was on par with the Wonder Dragon. Otherwise, it would have been swallowed by the Wonder Dragon. GA, what you said is not feasible. That human is not to be trifled with. The Wonder Dragon was waving its big claws, as if rejecting the cultivator's suggestion. Wonder Dragon, I don't want you to fight him. I just want you to play the role of a middleman. You should be able to find the other vicious beasts to fight. I can't find them. The ones behind me can go, but they won't be able to withstand a single blow. Of course not them. Although they're also beast kings, Beast Kings are also divided into different ranks. What I need is at least one of the 9 of you. Only then will it be useful. The Earth Dragon knew what the cultivator was talking about. The 9 vicious beasts were the 9 most powerful Beast Kings in the Beast King prison. They were also called Special Beast Kings and seemed to correspond to the 9 special dominators of the cultivator. These 9 could kill it with a casual breath. It really didn't know who was so powerful that the cultivator had found the Wonder Dragon and the other Beast Kings had to deal with it. The Wonder Dragon laughed strangely. This matter is very dangerous. What good will it do me? Instead of talking to you about this, I might as well think about how to kill you and eat you. Your flesh is a great supplement for me. The surrounding Beast Kings also looked at the cultivator with evil intentions, but in their hearts, they thought that this person was really bold. He actually dared to face several Beast Kings alone. The cultivator opposite him smiled faintly. You will definitely go. Why? You'd better give me an answer, or you won't be able to leave today. Because the days of chaos aura restlessness are about to begin. In your Beast King prison, there will definitely be a Beast King who will become a supreme, chaos, vicious beast and dominate the world. This matter is the key to becoming a chaos, vicious beast. Don't you want to try? Chapter 1439. Strange Dragon couldn't help but be tempted. Becoming a chaos beast was the highest dream of all dominator beasts. Chaos beasts looked down on the world, and it was said that they had the ability to travel through time. Once they reached this level, they would be invincible in the universe. Of course, Strange Dragon also wanted to reach this level, but it was very difficult. He didn't even have a clue how to reach this level. Now, the person in front of him had provided him with this opportunity. Whether it was true or not, he had to seize this opportunity, or it would be too late for regrets. Looks like we need to talk in detail. As far as I know, all the dominator powerhouses of the major races are trying their best to prevent chaos beasts from appearing. Why are you doing this? The person on the other side chuckled. It's a long story. He moved closer to Strange Dragon, as if to whisper something, but he suddenly stopped. I didn't expect there to be a little mouse. Luckily, it's a beast. If other dominators saw me, it would be troublesome. The person raised his hand, and a thin thread suddenly pierced through the iceberg. Puff! The thread pierced through the forehead of the lurking Earth Dragon, piercing through the crystal core in its brain. The vicious beasts of Beast King prison cultivated precisely because of this crystal core. This was where their famed sect lay. If someone broke it, they would be doomed. The Earth Dragon died on the spot without making a sound. Retracting the thread, the person turned to Strange Dragon. Looks like we can have a good talk this time. Asterisk, 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 asterisk. In Beast King prison, several figures were flying. They were flying at the speed of light, passing through endless icebergs and snowfields, and landed on a spot. Several figures descended. They were all stunning beauties. Sunflower Scar, Feng Qingwan, Ning Qingxian, and Bai Su. Sister Sunflower, this is the place. This is the entrance to Beast King prison from the outside world. The 4 women stood in the cold wind, looking at the pitch-black continent before them. This was the closest place to Beast King prison from other parts of the universe. It was the edge of Beast King prison's continent, called Heaven Terminus Mouth. It was also from here that one could vaguely see a star in the distance. This was the only place with light in Beast King prison, and that star was the Heaven Terminating Lone Star. It was about 15 light years away from here, and that was how the Heaven Terminating Mouth got its name. From a sky, fiend mouth, one would enter the territory of the Beast Kings. This was the only safe place in Beast King prison. The 4 of them were all sovereigns. Sunflower Scar was ranked 3rd, and Feng Qingwan was also ranked in the top 10. The Lin clan's wives had already formed a power in the sovereign's world. The few of them looked at the only bright spot in the distance and anxiously waited for someone to come. What's going on? Sister should be here by now. Bai Su was the most anxious. She kept looking into the distance. Don't worry, they're coming. A stream of light flew over from afar and soon arrived in front of everyone. It was Snow White. Sister, why are you only here now? Bai Su was the first to run over and grab her sister's hand. I went back to the new territories and gave a water-type divine crystal to to Sister Ning. That's why I'm late. Look, and Ning is also a sovereign now. The few of them hurriedly looked at the sovereign's rankings. Indeed, Ning was a water-type sovereign. She was ranked last among all the sovereigns. Even if she was ranked last, she was still a sovereign. And Ning and Su Mingyue cared for their families. They didn't like to fight, so no one cared about their strength. All right, now that we 5 sisters are gathered here, we can have fun in Beast King Prison. Hearing by Su's happy words, Sunflower Scar shook her head. Su, now is not the time to be happy. There are less than 10 years before the Chaos Aura becomes restless. We still haven't found out how the Dire Beasts became Dire Beasts of Chaos. Only by finding this can we effectively prevent the catastrophe from happening. Bai Su nodded. Sunflower Scar was their big sister, and everyone respected her. Bai Su didn't dare talk back. Only Feng Qingwan thought for a moment and said, Sister Sunflower, I heard a piece of news. I'm not sure if it's true. Let's hear it. This isn't the first time the chaos aura in the universe has become restless. Including this time, it should be the 3rd time. The first 2 times were passed safely because of the Myth Sovereign. But the 2nd time, the Myth Sovereign was seriously injured. However, he is still the only person in the universe who has dealt with dire beasts of chaos. As long as we can find the Myth Sovereign, we'll know how to solve this catastrophe. I've heard about it too. That's why we're trying our best to kill as many beasts as possible. We're also looking for traces of the Myth Dominator. It's said that he's in this Beast King prison, but we don't know exactly where he is. Yes, you're right. Now, many sovereigns are fighting inside Beast King prison. Let's get ready to go. Sunflower Scar said, then asked Snow White, Do you know when her husband will come? He should be here soon. When I came here, my husband was fighting against Jade Buddha, esteemed being. Jade Buddha, esteemed being's ranking has dropped to 18th. I can see that my husband won that battle, but I don't know why he hasn't arrived yet. Okay, let's not wait. When he comes, he'll find us. Let's go in now. Steam Bun and Black Soil are here, too. Let's go check them out first. The women moved together, ready to enter the depths of Beast King Prison. Before they left, Sunflower Scar's dimensional universe communicator rang. The sovereigns in Beast King Prison had connections. Every step was dangerous, so it was best to keep in touch with others. Now it was time for everyone to work together to deal with the dire beasts. Lonely Star Fishing Elder, a consummate sovereign, called for everyone to unite and fight the dire beasts together. Most people agreed with him. Sunflower Scar was ranked 3rd. Feng Qingwan and Snow White were in the top 10. They were a force to be reckoned with among the sovereigns. Lonely Star Fishing Elder would naturally contact them. Sunflower Scar received Lonely Star Fishing Elder's message. Sunflower Scar opened the water mirror, and Lonely Star Fishing Elder's kind face appeared. Sunflower Scar, I'm Lin Jun's teacher, Lonely Star Fishing Elder. Hello, Senior Lonely Star. Sunflower Scar greeted him very politely. It wasn't just because he was a consummate sovereign, but also because he was Lin Jun's teacher. Hello. Oh, you're all here. Gushing Fishing Old Man smiled and greeted the girls. Feng Qingwan and the others also greeted Gushing Fishing Old Man. It's good that you're all here. This disciple of mine, I didn't expect him to do so well. Seeing you all makes me feel old. Sunflower Scar and the others smiled in response. Chapter 1440. Lone Star Fishing Old Man said solemnly, Many days ago, Myth Dominator, Fallen Star Dominator, and I entered the Beast King prison together. We were ambushed by the Beast Kings. Fallen Star Dominator died then, and Myth Dominator and I were separated. Do you know about this? Sunflower Scar and the others nodded slightly. In fact, they were not very clear about this. Myth Dominator was born in ancient times. He is a little old-fashioned. After so many years of alternating dominators, he only contacted me. But every time he looked for me, I couldn't find him. Until a few days ago, I received news from him. The few of them listened attentively. This matter was extremely important. Myth Dominator's original name was Jiangnan. Senior Jiangnan told me that he knows the secret of the Chaos Beast's advancement. But he is very dangerous now. We have to go and save him. Baisu is a little anxious. Then let's go immediately. This is why I'm looking for you. Nothing must happen to Senior Jiangnan. This concerns the fate of everyone in the universe. So, we have to go as soon as possible. Now, the Dominators are gathering at White Jade Mountain. You guys should hurry. Sunflower Scar and the others nodded. Okay, we'll go immediately. Lone Star Fishing Old Man sighed. It's a pity that my disciple is not here. If he was, we would have a better chance. Back then, the people of the Supreme Council were biased and misunderstood him, causing him harm. Unfortunately, I was in the depths of the Beast King prison at that time and couldn't help much. Now, I see that Miss Sunflower, Miss Phone, and Miss Bai have all become members of the Supreme Council. I should be able to clear my disciple's name. Lin Jun's misfortune at the highest council had infuriated his wives too. Now that lonely star fishing old man had spoken, they immediately had a good impression of him. Thank you, Teacher Lone Star. We are all very grateful to you. Don't thank me. Just come quickly. After Lone Star Fishing Old Man finished speaking, he smiled and then closed the dimensional universe's communication. Sisters, let's go. Since our husband is not coming, we can't keep waiting. Sunflower Scar thought for a moment and didn't move immediately. Instead, he tried to communicate with Lin Jun's dimensional universe. But for some reason, Lin Jun's dimensional universe was unable to connect. This wasn't the first time something like this had happened, so she wasn't anxious. Instead, she left a message for Lin Jun. Husband, the few of us have entered the Beast King prison at the invitation of Master Lone Star Fishing Old Man. He said that he has found the whereabouts of the mythical ruler and wants to unite with the other rulers to fight against the beasts. We are currently preparing to go to White Jade Mountain. After leaving a message to Lin Jun, Sunflower Scar called out to the others and set off together. The five of them rose into the air again and flew straight to the place Lone Star Fishing Old Man had mentioned. White Jade Mountain was located at the center of the Beast King prison continent. To the east of the White Jade Mountain, the level of the ferocious beasts there was relatively low. As for the Dominator-level savage beasts, they were mostly concentrated in the west side of White Jade Mountain. The previous two times when the Chaos Aura had become restless, the warriors of various races had started their battle against the beasts of Beast King prison from the White Jade Mountain area and attacked the Beast Kings. Currently, there were more than 60 rulers gathered at White Jade Mountain. However, there weren't any particularly strong people here. The mythical ruler wasn't here, Lone Star Fishing Old Man hadn't arrived, and Sunflower Scar and the others hadn't arrived either. Back then, esteemed Jade Buddha had been relatively active, but after his ranking fell, he vanished without a trace. The strongest people here were the Twin Tree rulers of the Twin Tree Garden and the Soul Lock ruler of the Soul Lock Altar. Next were the Radiant ruler and the other venerated rulers. After the incident with Lin Jun and the battle in Beast King prison, the rulers had suffered greatly. Things had remained the same, but people had changed. These insufferably arrogant rulers also knew that nothing was eternal. Even if one became a ruler, the Beast King prison's Beast Kings would still be their enemy. Whenever the Chaos Aura became restless, the rulers' fates would be tested. If they passed this trial, they could still enjoy tens of billions of years of peace and quiet. If they couldn't pass this trial, there would be no future. Thus, no matter who it was, they had to come this time. Some had already arrived, while others were still on their way. Currently, they were all here listening to the Soul Lock ruler and the Twin Tree ruler tell them the story of the past. The rulers of the four sacred lands were all ancient figures who had experienced the last chaos or a restless. They were the most senior of the group. Of course, of the four sacred lands, the ruler of Fallen Star and the ruler of Freedom had already perished. Only two remained. However, the two of them were still the spiritual leaders in many people's hearts. After all, many of the rulers present had studied in the four sacred lands and viewed them as teachers. It was the Soul Lock ruler who was speaking. Everyone, most of you haven't been rulers for very long. Some of you have only been rulers for a few thousand or 10,000 years. You definitely aren't as familiar with the Beast King prison as us old fellows. Now that you're all here, it's my duty to tell you about it. All the rulers listened attentively. As you all know, this is not the first time that the chaotic aura has been agitated. The first 2 times, it was all thanks to the appearance of a martial arts master from the human race, the mythical dominator Jiangnan. He saved the universe twice by himself. However, Jiangnan's injuries are also not light. He had also said that the third primal chaos aura's agitation is the most crucial aspect. Later on, there were people who reached the pinnacle of the Dominator realm, such as Lone Star Fishing Elder, who had the bloodline of the Golden-Winged Rock, and Fallen Star Dominator, who had the bloodline of the Sky-Devouring Soaring Serpent. Although the two of them reached the pinnacle of the Dominator realm, they were still slightly inferior to the myth Dominator Jiangnan. This time, the Chaos Aura Restless has become even more restless. I'm sure you all have felt it. Beneath our feet, to the west of White Jade Mountain, is the territory of the 9 fearsome beasts, including the venomous snake of the frozen blood sea, the Go-Chun of the extreme fiendish prison, and the dragon of Dragonbone Mountain. To prevent them from becoming fearsome beasts, the 3 rulers joined forces to enter the depths of the Beast King prison to fight the fearsome beasts. Soul Lock Ruler side. It's a pity that my old friend, Ruler Fallen Star, had the soaring snake bloodline, but he couldn't fend off the attacks of so many fearsome beasts. In the end, he perished there. Another ruler asked, "What about Myth Ruler and Lone Star Ruler?" The Myth Dominator couldn't escape either. He was trapped inside. Only the Lone Star Dominator used his golden-winged rock bloodline to break out of the encirclement and escape danger. What we need to do this time is to rescue the Myth Dominator. Then let's go now. We don't have much time. Some of the more impatient rulers couldn't help but speak up. Don't rush. Lone Star Ruler will be here soon. Sunflower Scar, Feng Qing Wan, and the others will be here soon. Light Ruler coldly grunted. You want to count on those women? Forget it. They're both Lin Jun's wives. We'll be thankful if they don't drag us down. If it weren't for Lin Jun, Jim and Jade Buddha wouldn't have dropped in cultivation, and our chances of success would be much higher. Black Soil and Steam Bun, who had been listening, didn't want to hear this. Steam Bun said, "If it weren't for you stirring up *T, Big Brother Lin Jun would have been fighting alongside us. I think you're the most *ket up one. Be *starred. You're just an ordinary ruler. How dare you talk to a ruler like that?" Light Ruler was furious. Lin Jun was one thing, but Lin Jun's little brother dared to talk back to him. How could he tolerate that? Black Soil and Steam Bun weren't afraid of Light Ruler. They stood side by side, ready to fight. Chapter 1441. Seeing Black Country Bumpkin and Black Country Bumpkin clash with the Radiant Ruler, many of the sovereigns present chose to remain silent. In the past, such a situation would never have happened. The Radiant Ruler was an exalted ruler and had a revered status. He was also very strong, comparable to a special ruler. If he clashed with Steamed Bumpkin and Black Country Bumpkin, many people would probably come to his aid and suppress these 2 daring fools. However, today was different. After the battle with Lin Jun, the Radiant Ruler had been plagued by the aura of death. He had only recently escaped from the aura of death and had come out of seclusion. Moreover, the people who had supported the Radiant Ruler had basically all been killed by Lin Jun. Many of the sovereigns who had come today had benefited from Lin Jun. Otherwise, they wouldn't have had so many Ruler's God crystals to fuse with. Thus, they were grateful to Lin Jun and naturally wouldn't support the Radiant Ruler. If he wasn't exalted, they would probably still stand on Steamed Bumpkin and Black Country Bumpkin's side. Moreover, after being plagued by the aura of death for so many years, the Radiant Ruler's strength had even declined. He might not be a match for Steamed Bumpkin and Black Country Bumpkin. Seeing that the 2 sides were about to fight, Soul Lock Ruler and Twin Tree Ruler found it difficult to control the situation. At this moment, a figure descended from the sky. A powerful aura enveloped the 3 sovereigns, making them unable to move. "Senior Lone Star! Senior Lone Star!" Many people greeted him. Lone Star Fisher could be considered the spiritual leader of the sovereigns. Everyone respected him. Lone Star Fisher didn't attack. Instead, he used his domain to suppress the 3 sovereigns and said solemnly, "In front of a great enemy, we should be united. Any personal grudges in the past are not as important as the fate of the universe. I hope you can consider the big picture. If something like this happens again, don't blame me for being ruthless. The sovereigns didn't say anything, indicating that they obeyed. Lone Star Fisher withdrew his domain, and the surrounding pressure was swept away. How many people are here? He asked Soul Lock Ruler. Senior, there are 68 people in total. Oh, including you, that's 69. Lone Star Fisher nodded and did some calculations. Ruler Sunflower and the other 4 haven't arrived yet. And Ning and Su Mingwe have already made it clear that they won't come. In addition, the Myth Ruler is trapped in the depths of the Beast King prison. The Jade Buddha Ruler is not in a good condition and can't come for the time being. That's 78 people. 3 more. Lone Star Fishing Old Man once again used the dimensional universe to contact him. He sternly requested the other party to come as soon as possible. After waiting for roughly an hour, the 3 sovereigns, including Sunflower Scar, arrived. Of the 80 juggernauts in the universe, 77 had gathered. The Myths and the Jade Buddha couldn't do anything about it, and Ning and Su Mingwe didn't come. Logically speaking, it was wrong. However, no one present raised any objections. They all tacitly approved of this matter. Although Lin Jun wasn't here, his family and friends were the most powerful group of sovereigns, with the exception of Lone Star Fishing Old Man. Not even He Jim and Soul Lock or the twin trees He Jimin could do anything. Moreover, Lin Jun was even more frightening. He clearly wasn't a ruler, yet he was able to cause a peak ruler's cultivation level to drop. Just how powerful was he? This was the effect of influence. Lin Jun was not here, but he could influence the strongest group of people in the universe. When Sunflower Scar and the others arrived, many of the sovereigns smiled politely to express their friendliness. Lone Star Fishing Old Man looked at everyone's expressions and frowned slightly. All right, since everyone is here, I won't waste any more time. According to the Myth Ruler's information, he is 300 light years in front of White Jade Mountain. There is a heavenly ice valley, and he is trapped at the bottom of it. Currently, most of the sovereigns are gathered there. Normally, when we sovereigns fight, we fight for ourselves. But this time it's different. Everyone must listen to orders. Some of the sovereigns objected. Then if we kill the dire beasts, will the dire beast cores be distributed according to orders? This was a crucial question. The sovereigns were willing to come here to fight mainly because of the cores in the dire beast brains. For example, if Lone Star Fishing Old Man hadn't killed so many dire beasts and obtained so many cores, he wouldn't have become a peak ruler. While the dire beasts brought danger, they also brought opportunities. Lone Star Fishing Old Man said, "Don't worry about that. Everyone wants the cores. They belong to whoever obtains them. We won't interfere." Only then did the sovereigns relax. Although they would temporarily listen to Lone Star Fishing Old Man's orders for the sake of the universe's safety, none of the sovereigns wanted their freedom to be interfered with. At this point, none of them were willing to be subordinates. After explaining some details, Lone Star Fishing Old Man said, "Let's set off now. The distance is 300 light years. We will reach Heavenly Ice Valley in half a month." After saying that, Lone Star Fishing Old Man raised his hand, and a small planet appeared. Many people recognized this planet. It was the planet Lone Star Fishing Old Man lived on. It was a small planet. "Come on up." More than 70 sovereigns boarded the planet and found a place to sit. With a thought, Lone Star Fishing Old Man sent the small planet into the sky. It left White Jade Mountain and flew straight into the depths of the Beast King prison. In the blink of an eye, the small planet's speed surpassed the speed of light. It traveled through the cold parallel space of the Beast King prison. The sovereigns released their protective auras to ensure that they wouldn't fall from the small planet. Half a month's time passed quickly. When the small planet slowed down, they left the parallel space and returned to the real world. As soon as they left the parallel space, they felt an inconceivably powerful, baleful aura rushing towards them. It was as if all the baleful aura in the world had gathered here. In the thin air here, they could clearly feel the baleful aura's invasion. There was no doubt that any living being who lived in such an illusion for a long time would be affected by the baleful aura. They would become savage, violent, and inhumane. Faint roars came from afar, shaking everyone's hearts. Some of the sovereigns even hesitated, not daring to take a step forward. The sovereigns, who were usually fearless, were also worried. They could tell from the roars that the ones who were making them were existences that could threaten their lives. Lone Star Fishing Old Man's small planet slowly came to a stop. Everyone, we've arrived. This is the depths of the Beast King prison, the entrance to Heavenly Ice Valley. In the past, the Myth Sovereign, Fallen Star Sovereign, and I fought the dire beasts in Heavenly Ice Valley. Now that the aura of chaos is restless, most of the Beast Kings have come to this place, so it's very dangerous inside. In order to ensure everyone's safety, there are some things that must be made clear to everyone. Lone Star Fishing Old Man said with a serious expression, "We have a group of sovereigns in the dimensional universe. I believe you are all in the group." The sovereigns nodded. Everyone who became a sovereign would be automatically pulled into a group. Now, there were only 80 people in the group. As you all know, the dire beasts are very intelligent and can communicate with humans. In order to prevent any of us sovereigns from communicating with the dire beasts, from now on, everyone here must turn off all communication functions. No one is allowed to contact the outside world. The only thing you can keep is the sovereigns group. Our communication is in this group. With that, Lone Star Fishing Old Man took the initiative to turn off most of the communication functions in his dimensional universe, leaving only the sovereigns group. The sovereigns followed suit and turned off all other functions, leaving only the group chat. Good. I hope that everyone will strictly listen to me and not contact anyone. Only the 81 of us sovereigns know about this operation. If anyone leaks the secret or communicates with the dire beasts, causing everyone to be in danger, they will be the enemy of the entire universe. Lone Star Fishing Old Man said with an incomparably serious tone, giving people the feeling that something bad was about to happen. Chapter 1442. No one had any objections to Lone Star's words. This was even better. It would ensure that no one would leak the secret and nothing would happen. After everyone was done, Lone Star Fishing Old Man spoke in the group chat and asked everyone to reply. Soon, everyone replied. Lone Star Fishing Old Man counted. 77 people is just right. Now, we're ready to take action. Our goal is to rescue the mythical ruler. He's in the underground palace of Sky Ice Valley. That's the place with the heaviest energy and the heaviest filth in the universe. Even a ruler will be greatly affected if he goes there. So, I want to give you a piece of advice. If you have any unfinished business or wishes, it's best to tell him clearly now. Don't leave any regrets. The rulers were stunned. They didn't expect that they would suddenly come to this point. There was actually a high chance of death. But now that they were here, it was impossible for anyone to turn back. Their dimensional universes had been closed. There was no way to explain. Moreover, they had said before that there was no need to explain anymore. It was just that things had come too suddenly. It was hard for them to accept. After a while, seeing that no one had any objections, Lone Star Fishing Old Man waved his hand. There are only 6 years until the final chaos restlessness. Let's go. The rulers followed Lone Star Fishing Old Man and stepped into Sky Ice Valley. There was greenish-black ice everywhere. Perhaps it hadn't melted since ancient times. The ice was as hard as metal. The greenish-black color was caused by the invasion of the evil energy. Huge icebergs rose from the ground, all the way to 1,000,000 meters in the sky. At the top, the temperature had reached absolute zero. No life could survive there. Even the cells had stopped moving. Only when they went down did the temperature rise slightly. It was this absolute zero sky that blocked the communication between the Beast King prison and the outside world. The Beast Kings didn't leave at will. However, the rulers couldn't go up as they pleased. They could only walk down. After walking for a while, the evil energy in front of them churned. There are ruler beasts. Everyone be careful. Lone Star Fishing Old Man's eyes shone brightly as he looked straight ahead. A moment later, 3 Beast Kings appeared. These were 3 tiger-type Beast Kings. They were all ordinary ruler beasts. Everyone go. These ordinary ruler beasts were what the rulers wanted to see the most. They weren't very strong and could absorb crystal cores. The sovereigns howled as they charged forward, launching attacks from all directions. There was no way the three ordinary bee sovereigns could withstand the combined attacks of over 70 bee sovereigns. In an instant, they were smashed into pieces. One of them had been personally killed by Lone Star Fishing Old Man. However, Lone Star Fishing Old Man didn't collect the crystal core. Instead, he took a step back and said, "I'm already a full circle ruler. I don't need these crystal cores anymore. You can take them." One of the ordinary sovereigns behind him took advantage of the situation and took one. The other two sovereigns each took one. After absorbing the crystal core, the sovereign's godly power had grown significantly. He bowed to Old Man Lone Star and said, "Thank you, Senior Lone Star." Lone Star Fishing Old Man waved his hand, indicating that it was fine, and the group continued forward. After that, they encountered two more waves of beasts. However, with Lonely Star Fishing Old Man present, ordinary beasts were no problem at all, for more beasts fell to the sovereigns. Every time, Lonely Star Fishing Old Man would take the lead. Moreover, he didn't ask for any crystal cores. This earned the admiration of these rulers. The sovereigns gradually relaxed. In such a short period of time, they had killed 7 sovereigns. If this continued, it wouldn't be long before all the sovereigns were wiped out. Even if a new sovereigns were to be born, it wouldn't be so soon. It seemed that there was hope for them to survive this calamity. As they gradually entered the depths of Sky Ice Valley, they encountered even more powerful sovereigns. This time, they encountered 6 sovereigns at once. This group was made up of poisonous sovereigns. There were all kinds of elemental sovereigns. They hid behind an ice mountain and suddenly attacked the sovereigns. The sovereigns hurriedly went to fight. After all, they had the advantage in numbers. They quickly gained the upper hand and wanted to kill these 6 sovereigns. Everyone was in a hurry to attack. Because there was a limited number of crystal cores, they would belong to whoever managed to snatch them. Among them, Bisusu was the most anxious. She charged at the front of the group. However, just as she was about to kill a toad, a goshawk sovereigns suddenly descended from the sky. In an instant, the wind and clouds surged. Dense, sharp claws shot towards Bisusu. A wind type, sovereigns. Bisusu was only a sovereigns. However, she had just become one not long ago. Her battle strength wasn't considered high among sovereigns. In addition, the goshawk hid very well. Bisusu was caught off guard and was about to be hit. Sunflower Scar and the others didn't expect the situation to change so suddenly. They wanted to save her, but it was too late. At this moment, a figure suddenly rose into the sky and fought with the goshawk. Blood splattered in the sky. The goshawk fell down and died on the spot. The person who attacked was Lone Star Fishing Old Man. Lone Star Fishing Old Man's left arm and shoulder were directly torn off by the goshawk. His injuries were also very serious. Bisusu cried out in shock, "Senior Lone Star, you're injured." Lone Star Fishing Old Man's face was somewhat pale. He waved his hand and took out a pill. His body quickly recovered. "It's fine. This beast wasn't my match. However, the situation was urgent. I could only take a direct hit from it to save you. I was careless and accidentally injured. It's not a big problem. I'll be fine after some rest." After saying that, Lone Star Fishing Old Man said to Bisusu, "Miss Susu, are you all right? If something happened to you here, when I see my disciple Lin Jun in the future, I won't be able to show my old face anymore. So, no matter what, I have to protect you all." Although she knew that a peak dominator wouldn't be greatly affected by such a small injury, Bisusu still felt very guilty. "It's all my fault. If I hadn't been greedy, Senior wouldn't have been injured." Bisusu's big eyes were somewhat moist. Her respect for Lone Star Fishing Old Man deepened. Even Snow White and the others came over and thanked Lone Star Fishing Old Man. When the other dominators saw this scene, they sighed in their hearts. Previously, many people thought that Lin Jun was the expert with the most potential in the universe. In the future, his achievements would definitely be above Lone Star Fishing Old Man's. This teacher was gradually not living up to his name. Lone Star Fishing Old Man probably had a knot in his heart and might not treat this disciple sincerely. But now, it seemed that those who said such words were measuring the heart of a gentleman with the yardstick of a villain. Lone Star Fishing Old Man's character and temperament could be described as great. He was a true senior. Those who had a grudge against Lone Star Fishing Old Man were now sincerely convinced. In the future, they would listen to orders and respect Lone Star Fishing Old Man even more. Someone even said, Senior Lone Star Fishing Old Man is willing to risk his life. What do we have to fear? At worst, we'll just die. Chapter 1443. Under Lone Star Fishing Old Man's leadership, the Sovereign's team was unstoppable. From the entrance to the depths of Sky Ice Valley, they had already killed more than 20 Sovereigns in a dozen days. There were even 3 Paragon Sovereigns and 1 Special Sovereign. All the Sovereigns were excited. It seemed that there was still a big difference between savage beasts and martial artists. The biggest difference was their intelligence. Savage beasts only knew how to fight for themselves and would eventually be defeated by a united group of people. If this continued, they were confident that they would be able to wipe out all of the Beast King Prison's Sovereigns in less than 3 months before the Chaos Aura became restless. Until they reached the entrance to Sky Ice Valley's underground palace. The so-called underground palace was actually a cave. However, this cave was shockingly large, with a diameter of more than 100,000 kilometers. It was bottomless and seemed like a cosmic trap. Lone Star Fishing Old Man came to the entrance of the underground palace and took a deep breath. It's been so many years. I'm back. He turned to face the Sovereigns. This might be your first time here. This is the core of the Beast King Prison. This underground palace has existed since the birth of the universe, and it contains the most evil and foul energy. It is the source of all negative energy. There's a legend that the heavenly calamity star outside Beast King Prison came out of this underground palace. The emptiness of the underground palace is also due to the heavenly calamity star's departure. Can you imagine how dangerous the place where the heavenly calamity star was born is? Although it seems like we've destroyed everything on our way here, we haven't harmed the foundation of the savage beasts. The 3 sovereign beasts haven't appeared, and we haven't seen most of the special and paragon beasts either. If they were all in this underground palace, I can tell you with certainty that we wouldn't be their match even if we attacked together. These words made the excited Sovereigns feel like a bucket of cold water had been poured over them. Senior Lone Star, but isn't the myth Sovereign in the underground palace? Aren't we going in? Someone asked. Of course we're going in, but we can't just go in like this. Lone Star Fishing Old Man smiled. I've already made arrangements for today's matter. Facing the Sovereigns, Lone Star Fishing Old Man said, You might be wondering why Jade Buddha Sovereign didn't come when everyone came to Beast King Prison to deal with the savage beasts. Is his loss of strength the reason? No. Even if he's lost strength, he still has to do what he has to do. Lone Star Fishing Old Man's expression was solemn. Jade Buddha's loss of strength, but he still has the heart of the universe. He's in charge of luring Yuan Shi and Si and extreme hell prisons Gouchen away. Before we're done, he would rather die than let those 2 perfect beasts return. Lone Star Fishing Old Man was Fishing Old Man video. This was a video that Jade Buddha had sent Lone Star Fishing Old Man when he set off. He had recorded it and could play it without opening the dimensional universe. Long man's old was. Old brother Lone Star, according to our agreement, I'm going to lure Envious Snake and Gouchen away. However, there's a slight change in the situation. My divine kingdom has been shattered and needs to be repaired. This has greatly affected my strength. But there's no other way now. The day when the aura of chaos becomes restless is approaching. We can't wait any longer. Don't worry about me. Just focus on rescuing Senior Myth. I won't let Envious Snake and Gouchen leave. I promise. The video ended. Jade Buddha's face was pale. His kind face was covered in wrinkles. He looked much older. This was a sign that a martial artist's strength had declined. From this, one could see how great of a blow the battle with Lin Jun had dealt to Jade Buddha. The Sovereigns weren't all that familiar with the Jade Buddha, but they couldn't help but feel sympathy and respect for him. There were 80 sovereigns in the universe, and 77 of them were here. Including Jade Buddha, there were 78. Excluding the myth sovereigns they had to rescue, only Ning and Su Mingyue had yet to arrive. Some of them glanced at Sunflower Scar and the others. They did not feel good about it. Everyone, Jade Buddha has created an excellent environment for us. Without Gaochen and Yuan Shi, the danger level here is greatly reduced. At most, there'll only be Wonder Dragon in this underground palace. Moreover, the other party should not have noticed our arrival. This is very advantageous for us. Therefore, I have one request for everyone. No one is allowed to communicate with the outside world and expose our whereabouts. Those vicious beasts have allies in the outside world. Once our situation is exposed, we may even be ambushed by the vicious beasts. Lone Star Fishing Elder's expression was incomparably solemn. We'll say the ugly words first. If anyone is exposed, they will be the enemy of the entire universe. Everyone has the right to kill them. Do you understand? No one had much to say about this. At this moment, everyone's dimensional universes were closed. There was only one sovereign group chat. There was no way to communicate with the outside world. All right, everyone must be tired from rushing all the way here. Let's rest for 3 days. Once we've recovered, we'll enter the underground palace and rescue Senior Myth. The sovereigns agreed. They scattered and began to rest. Everyone consciously did not go too far. They also did not want to be affected by the cold here. They quietly rested and recovered. Sunflower Scar and the others stayed together. During this time, Ning Qingxian, who never liked to talk much, took the initiative to say, "Sister Sunflower, today's matter is a little inappropriate." What's inappropriate? Senior Lone Star is right. Jade Buddha did a good job. However, this caused the Ning and Yu heir to fall into injustice. Now, husband's power can suppress others. But without husband, who knows what some people will say? The girls nodded slightly. They also felt that something was wrong. But what could they say at that time? After a while, Sunflower Scar sighed. This can't be helped. Our family has gone through a lot of hardships. We can't have no one to hold the fort. Although these things are annoying, they're just minor details. As long as husband is here, there won't be any big problems. The strong Feng Qingwan looked at the dark underground palace of Sky Ice Valley. This was the most dangerous place in the universe. She could not help but say, "I wonder how husband is now? If he doesn't come, I'll be a little worried." They all felt the same. However, they could not contact the outside world. They could only take one step at a time. They hoped that Lin Jun could quickly finish what he was doing and rush over. That way, they would be safe. 3 days passed in the blink of an eye. Lone Star Fishing Old Man regrouped. All right, everyone, we've rested enough. I made a map of the underground palace. There are some places to pay attention to. Take a look. The sovereigns gathered around to look at Lone Star Fishing Old Man's map. This underground palace is a dead end. There's only one entrance, and it's also the exit. Once you enter, it won't be easy to come back. This time, we have to go straight to the root of the problem and rescue the Myth Sovereign. Lone Star Fishing Old Man waved his hand. A cold aura appeared on his face. Chapter 1444. The underground palace was full of twists and turns, causing these fearless sovereigns to feel extremely uncomfortable. This was the filthiest place in the entire universe. It wasn't because of the trash, but because of the aura. The aura here would cause anyone below the ruler level to rot. Unless you had more than 100 million god power points, you would be able to resist the filthy aura here. However, other than the rulers, only Lin Jun had 100 million god power points. Lone Star Fishing Old Man led the way as the rulers entered. "Everyone, follow me. We shouldn't encounter too much danger on the way. Our final goal is near the Chaos Altar. The Chaos Altar is the first altar in the universe. Whether it's us or beasts, once we reach the peak of ruler level, we won't be able to improve. If we want to break through this limit, we will have to go to the Chaos Altar." At this moment, Black Soil suddenly asked, "Senior Lone Star, is it possible for any race to break through to the peak and become a supreme chaos expert here?" Lone Star Fishing Old Man thought for a moment and said, "I'm not too sure. After all, No one has ever succeeded. However, normal races might not be able to do so because their bloodline isn't strong enough. For example, the pure human race has a thin bloodline, so it's hard for them to become supreme. The reason why chaos beasts are so scary is because their bloodline is stronger than normal races. That's why they can break through the limit and become supreme. At this moment, another ruler asked, "Then we just have to wait at the chaos altar and kill whoever comes, right?" Lone Star Fishing Old Man shook his head. It's not that simple. First of all, the filthy aura at the chaos altar is very strong. Even rulers will go crazy if they stay there for too long. That's why I brought everyone here. The chaos aura is getting closer and closer. A few days ago, I calculated that there are only 5 years left. Everyone should be able to hold on during this time. Walking on this path, everyone had to constantly consume God power to resist the filthy aura coming from all directions. Hearing Lone Star Fishing Old Man's words, everyone's heart sank. This was Lone Star Fishing Old Man's nest, the most dangerous place in the universe. It was difficult to stay here for long. At this moment, Snow White looked at Lone Star Fishing Old Man. "Senior, I see that you don't use much God power to resist the filthy aura here. It doesn't seem to affect you at all." Lone Star Fishing Old Man smiled and said, "I'm still a bit stronger than you guys. I'm a peak ruler after all." Bai Shui and the others couldn't help but feel envious. Bai Susu even asked Sunflower Scar curiously, "Sister Sunflower, you're the strongest among us, and your goal is to reach perfection as well. How much longer do you need before you reach perfection?" Sunflower Scar took a deep look at Lonely Star Fishing Elder before replying, "Not too far away. However, I doubt that I'll be able to do as freely as Elder Lonely Star, even if I reach consummation. Senior Lone Star is indeed powerful." Bai Susu was saved by Lone Star once. She was impressed by Lone Star Fishing Old Man. Gu Xing smiled and didn't say anything else. He led the group forward, and their pace was much faster than before. The path to the altar wasn't easy. Although they didn't encounter any powerful beasts along the way, the naturally filthy place gave birth to countless poisonous creatures. These poisonous creatures were everywhere. They could be in the corners, in the soil, in the air, or even hiding in spatial cracks. They could attack the sovereigns at any time, which slowed their progress to a crawl. It took them half a year to reach the chaos altar from the entrance of the underground palace. No sovereign beasts appeared along the way. This made the sovereigns relax slightly. Although the path wasn't easy, it was still a daunting experience. It seemed that their movements were very secretive. Those beasts with low intelligence didn't realize that they were in trouble. Half a year later, the sovereigns arrived at the chaos altar. Wow, this place is spectacular. More than 70 sovereigns stood beside the altar. They were shocked speechless by the scene before them. The chaos altar wasn't a man-made structure. It was naturally formed when the universe was first formed. The area it occupied was huge. It was so big that it could contain a small planet. The ceiling of the cave wasn't an ordinary rock wall. It was a map of the universe. Those things were illusory and ethereal, but they were real. Standing below them, one could see the vast starry river and star system, line after line. The new territories, the primordial realm, and specific galaxies were all here. Everyone could find their home here. This place was very mysterious. If they paid attention to a certain place, that place would be magnified. They could even see the Beast King prison, which was where they were currently. Although these people were sovereigns, none of them had truly seen the universe. They were all shocked speechless by this scene. Bai Susu stared blankly for a long time. She said to Lone Star, "Senior Lone Star, have you been here before?" Lone Star nodded. "I've been here once. The myth Overlord, Fallen Star Overlord, and I fought the beasts here." "Then have you counted these stars?" Lone Star smiled. "How is that possible? No one can count the universe's stars." Hearing Lone Star's words, some people weren't convinced. They wanted to try counting, but after a few minutes, they felt dizzy and their minds couldn't take it anymore. They could only give up helplessly. No one would try that. It would be too stupid. Below the map was a dark golden altar. In the center of the altar was a circular pit that wasn't too deep. There were 81 small pits around it. Each of the small pits had a passage that led to the large pit in the center. No one knew what it was for. Someone asked Lone Star. Lone Star looked at it for a while and shook his head. I'm not sure. Since Lone Star said he didn't know, the others didn't ask. They were all sovereigns and knew many things. However, no one knew about this chaos altar. No one had even heard of it. It was normal that Lone Star didn't know. Senior, why haven't we seen a single sovereign beast on our way here? Someone asked. Gu Xing's expression was solemn as well. Looking at the darkness around them, he said, I'm thinking about the same thing. The last time we came here, we went through a lot of intense battles. But this time, there's nothing. It's really strange. Forget it. Let's not care about this. It's better that there are no beasts. Let's look for Senior Myth's whereabouts first. He separated from me here last time. Later, he sent me a message saying that he's still in the depths of the altar. Let's look for him. This place was very big. The sovereigns immediately spread out and searched everywhere. Not long after they separated, something happened. Several groups of sovereigns were attacked by beasts at the same time. In a short 10 minutes, 18 sovereigns fell. Lone Star's expression changed when he heard the news. Chapter 1445. This attack on the sovereigns was unprecedented. They didn't encounter any other sovereign beasts along the way. They were all hiding in the depths of the altar. Just as they split up, they were immediately ambushed by the beasts. 18 sovereigns died on the spot. The remaining ones ran back and recounted their experiences. Some were ambushed by the Qilong, some were ambushed by the Gauchin, and some were ambushed by the envious snake. Of course, there were other special sovereign beasts as well. Almost all of them were hiding here. Those beasts had killed many sovereigns. Although the sovereign god crystals had returned to the primal chaos, the sovereigns' corpses were still extremely nutritious. Just like how the sovereigns of various races killed beasts for their crystal cores, the beasts killed sovereigns and ate them. Only in this way would the rest of the people have a chance to escape. Lone Star Fishing Old Man's expression was extremely ugly. This isn't right. The grievous snake and the Gauchin were both drawn away by Jade Buddha. They shouldn't have appeared here. Why are they at the primal chaos altar? Someone said hesitantly, Jade Buddha, Shangren. Lone Star Fishing Old Man waved his hand. Impossible. Jade Buddha Venerable Master left me a message, but he didn't know when we were coming. It's impossible for these Dominator beasts to hide in one place, so they must know of our movements. Lone Star Fishing Old Man swept his gaze over the crowd and said, I'm guessing that there's a problem within our ranks. Someone leaked the information. Otherwise, the beasts wouldn't have set up an ambush so accurately and waited for us to take the bait. Standing next to Lone Star was the Radiant Ruler. The Radiant Ruler said, Senior Lone Star, we followed your orders and sealed off the entire dimensional universe. There's no way we can contact the outside world. That's right. The only way we can communicate with each other is through the group chat. The only people who can leak our secrets are the people in the group. If it's not Jade Buddha Ruler, I can't think of anyone else, said another ruler. Lone Star Fishing Old Man began to ponder, his brows furrowed. No one knew what he was thinking. The Radiant Ruler suddenly said, That's right. There's someone in the group, but he didn't come. Jade Buddha? Didn't I just say that he doesn't know of our movements? Lone Star Fishing Old Man said, It's not Jade Buddha. It's someone else. Are you talking about Senior Myth? That's even more impossible. Senior Myth can't even protect himself. We've already lost contact with him for many years, and we're here to save him. The Radiant Hegemon laughed coldly. Senior Lone Star, you might have forgotten, but Tranquility and Su Mingyue aren't participating in this operation. In addition, they're in the group as well. Gu Xing was stunned for a moment. Then he said weakly, Guang Guang, don't talk nonsense. And Ning and Su Mingyue are the wives of my disciple, Lin Jun. Their character is unquestionable. They would never betray us. Moreover, Sunflower Scar and the others are the sisters of Ning and Su Mingyue. Why would they harm their sisters? Senior Lone Star Fishing Old Man, I disagree. It's hard to tell what's in a person's heart. Who can guarantee someone's character? Moreover, you might not be too clear about the things that happen between women. It's common for women to be jealous of each other. Perhaps they want to use this opportunity to get rid of Sunflower Scar and the others in one fell swoop. That way, they can have Lin Jun all to themselves. The Radiant Ruler's words were murderous, but they weren't without reason. They were all sovereigns who had lived for countless years, and they had seen many things in their lives. Fighting between women was a common occurrence. Lone Star Fishing Old Man's expression became increasingly conflicted, but he kept saying, "Impossible. Let's not talk about this anymore. While those savage beasts haven't come yet, we have to immediately investigate whose dimensional universe was open during this period of time." Everyone immediately began to move nervously. But after a quick investigation, they discovered that no one present had opened their dimensional universe. Lone Star Fishing Old Man took a deep breath. In order to find out the truth, I need to open my dimensional universe and investigate whether or not Jade Buddha and Myth's dimensional universe were opened during this period of time. In truth, whether or not they opened their dimensional universes was meaningless. Everyone began to open them. Thanks to the ruler's remarkable abilities, they quickly found out. Whether it was Jade Buddha or Myth, none of their dimensional universes had opened in the past few years. In other words, they couldn't have used their dimensional universes to spread the news of what had happened in the group chat. At this point, the truth seemed to be clear. Apart from Ning and Su Mingyue, no one else could have done this. But Lone Star Fishing Old Man still didn't say a word. His expression constantly changed. Clearly, he was in a mental struggle. The Radiant Ruler said coldly, "Senior Lone Star, we all know that Lin Jun is your disciple, but please don't forget that the people you are leading now bear the fate of the entire universe on their shoulders. I hope you won't let your emotions get the better of you. And Ning and Su Mingyue have clearly betrayed us. If you still don't react, I'm afraid it'll be hard to convince others." Off to the side, a few other rulers agreed. These were all people who had just escaped death. When they saw their fellow rulers being killed by monsters, their hearts were filled with terror. They no longer cared about Lin Jun's status. Still, most people didn't say anything. After all, this was a matter of great importance. Lone Star Fishing Old Man said with a pained expression, "Even if they betrayed us, they're still outside. What do you expect me to do?" The Radiant Ruler pointed at Sunflower Scar and the others. "I suspect that the one who ruined our plans was Lin Jun. As Lin Jun's wives, these women are no longer reliable. We have to kill them or imprison them. Only then will we be a bit safer. I don't want anyone to stab us in the back." Sunflower Scar, who had been watching coldly from the side, suddenly snorted. "That's enough. What right do you have to say that Ning and you are betrayed us? There's no way they would do something like that. Maybe something went wrong somewhere. I think there's something fishy about this. We have to investigate this thoroughly." Feng Qingwan also took out her large glaive and stood beside Sunflower Scar. "I think you're deliberately trying to frame my husband. You want to do something to him through us, right? Also, Senior Lone Star, you don't have to look like you're in a difficult position. Feng Qingwan, was born in the Jianghu. I fought my way up. I don't care about sand in my eyes. You're now suspected of acting. If you really want to do something to us, then let's see if the female generals of the Lin family are afraid of you." Feng Qingwan's words were earth-shattering. Everyone present was shocked. Everything seemed to be pointing at Lin Jun and the Lin family. But what if it was Lone Star Fishing Old Man who was in trouble? Everyone looked at Lone Star. Lone Star Fishing Old Man was shaking with anger. He pointed at Feng Qingwan and said, "You little girl, what nonsense are you talking about?" The wounds on his arms and shoulders were still fresh in his mind. He had gotten them while saving Bai Susu. Bai Susu looked a little uneasy. Sister Feng, Snow White grabbed Bai Susu. No matter what, the women of the Lin family had to be united. Chapter 1446. Seeing the women of the Lin family react so fiercely, the ruler of light and the others didn't dare to act rashly. In fact, if Lone Star wasn't on their side, no one in the ruler's group could go against the Lin family. Besides, Steamed Bun, Black Soil, and the other rulers were clearly on the Lin family's side. Lone Star said with a pained expression, "Little girls, you've misunderstood me. I didn't say that Ning and Su Mingyue betrayed us. That's just a possibility. In fact, I'm also a suspect, but I can't confirm it yet. You don't have to worry. Hearing Lone Star's words, Sunflower Scar and the others' expressions became slightly better. If Lone Star also said that it was a Ning and the others, then they would really be angry. But in this situation, we can't rule out anyone's suspicions. Seeing that the beasts are about to arrive, there has to be a solution. Lone Star looked at the crowd. Many people supported him. Senior Lone Star, what do you think we should do? Yes, this concerns everyone's safety. You have to come up with a solution. We'll listen to you. As long as there's a solution, it's fine. Lone Star raised his hand and gestured. After everyone quieted down, he slowly spoke. There really is a solution. Does everyone see this chaos altar? Now that everyone was on the chaos altar, they naturally saw it and nodded. Before, someone asked me what the pit on the altar was for. I said I didn't know, but I do know. Lone Star walked to the pit in the middle. This pit is called the other heart position. The surrounding pits are called the original heart position. Everyone listened carefully, not understanding what he meant. Why is it called that? Because as long as someone is in the other heart position and others are in the original heart position, it can detect the thoughts of the people in the original heart position. Hearing this, everyone's expressions changed. There is actually such a mysterious mechanism in the world that could detect people's thoughts. Although many people felt that they had a clear conscience, who didn't have a secret in their heart, who would want someone to detect their inner thoughts. Therefore, many people expressed their rejection of the idea. Seeing this, Lone Star said, "Everyone, don't worry. Although it can detect people's thoughts, it's an extremely complicated thing. I don't want to do it either. If it's just a simple question, it's easier. If everyone is willing, I can enter the other heart position because the person in the heart position must be stronger than the others. Then, I'll ask you a specific question. You don't have to answer. Star's question. Question's hard. If someone's his heart position, if it's true or false. When the time comes, if someone's his position's heart position, its positions, its hearts will sides betray." Everyone was silent. This matter sounded a little mysterious, and no one was willing to take the initiative to try it. Seeing how awkward the situation was, the radiant hegemon stepped forward. Star, Essis, if there's no problem, then the problem lies with me. I believe that it won't come to that step. If it really does come to that, this old man is willing to take the initiative to fight with those ferocious beasts to prove my innocence. Gu Xing's words were powerful and resonating, very convincing. Good. Start. T-Star. Stars is. T-Star, S. Very good. Lone Star Fishing Old Man nodded in satisfaction, then entered his mind. As for the Radiant Sovereign, he chose a small hole to enter. While everyone else was watching, Lone Star Fishing Old Man took the initiative to ask a question. Have you ever betrayed anyone? The light did not answer as per the agreement. Instead, a faint white light directly entered Lone Star's heart position from his original heart position. Everyone held their breaths, wanting to see what was going to happen. Roughly 5 minutes later, Lone Star Fishing Old Man came out. The Radiant Ruler's side didn't make any movements either. Everyone, there is no reaction from the Chief Sovereign of Light's position. I've already heard his inner thoughts. There is no problem with his inner thoughts. He can be eliminated as a suspect. Wow, it's so magical. I'll give it a try too. Yet another hegemon who was relatively close to the hegemon of Light stepped forward and accepted Lone Star Fishing Old Man's test. Another 5 minutes passed, and the Sovereign passed the test without any problems. Seeing that there was no danger, another Sovereign stepped forward. There was no problem in ending the test in 5 minutes. 15 minutes passed, and the baleful aura around them grew thicker and thicker. Most likely, the savage beasts had finished digesting the Sovereign's corpse and could come at any moment. One of the Sovereigns couldn't help but say, "Senior Lone Star, how long will it take for all of us to finish this test? Can't you hurry up?" Lone Star nodded. "Hurry up is fine. Everyone can enter one heart position, and then I'll ask the questions. Everyone will answer together, and I'll be able to receive the same information. When the time comes, we'll know if anyone has a problem. 10 minutes should be enough. Won't it be too tiring for you?" It's fine. For the sake of the entire universe, This bit of tiring is nothing. The sovereign who had asked the question first entered one heart position. Then a second, a third, a 10th sovereign entered. Seeing more and more sovereigns enter the heart position, Sunflower Scar and the others had no other choice. Although they had a clear conscience, they still felt that something was off. But now that everyone had entered, if anyone didn't go, they would definitely be accused of having a guilty conscience. No one was willing to bear the crime of betraying so many sovereigns. Helpless, Sunflower Scar and the others could only enter the heart position one by one. Feng Qingwan stood in front of the heart position, feeling a bit uneasy. "Sisters, I feel that something is off. Should we leave one person behind?" Sunflower Scar thought for a moment, then nodded slightly. "Then you stay behind first. If anything happens, you can inform your husband." Feng Qingwan thought for a moment, then stopped resolutely. No matter what, she wouldn't go down. "My sisters, go down first. I'll take a look. If you agree, we'll test you. If you don't, then forget it." Lone Star Fishing Old Man looked deeply at Feng Qingwan, but didn't say anything. He tested the others first. Just like that, Sunflower Scar, Ning Qing Xian, Snow White by Su Su, Hey Tu, Steam Bun, and the others all entered one heart position. The Sovereign of Light and the other two sovereigns, as well as Feng Qingwan, stayed behind to watch. Lone Star Fishing Old Man entered his heart position again and asked the same question. There were a total of 56 people testing at the same time. Excluding Lone Star Fishing Old Man himself, there were 55 sovereigns. 55 streaks of white light gathered above his heart position on the Chaos Altar. Instantly, the Chaos Altar shone with white light. Rumble! The altar let out a dull roar. The test this time seemed to be a little different from the previous ones. Chapter 1447. Feng Qingwan's premonition was right. Just as these people's white light gathered around Lonely Star Fishing Elder, the Chaos Altar suddenly shook. Amidst a series of rumbling sounds, light screens suddenly appeared, covering all of the primal core positions. As for the sovereigns in the original heart plane, they were completely trapped. These sovereigns tried to hit and attack the light screen, but the light screen did not budge at all. Clearly, it was not something they could shake. Feng Qingwan's face turned pale. "What's going on? You scum. There is indeed a problem." At this moment, the radiant ruler beside her suddenly laughed out loud. "Ha ha ha. Now you know there's a problem? Unfortunately, you know it too late. Now, I will send you down to try it." Suddenly, the radiant ruler pointed at Feng Qingwan and said sternly, "Capture this woman. She is alone now. She can't do anything." The other two sovereigns immediately rushed over. In their opinion, Feng Qingwan was just a female sovereign. Although she was a supremacy, she had not been there for long. The two of them could easily take her down, but they did not expect Feng Qingwan to be prepared. When the two of them approached, what welcomed them was a lightning-like blade light. Dressed in red, she was unparalleled. The slender and enchanting woman's weapon was actually a 7-meter-long glaive. This was a top-grade weapon. Lin Jun gave it to Feng Qingwan because he knew that this wife of his had a violent tendency. When Feng Qingwan's glaive started to attack, she seemed to be very casual, making people look down on her unconsciously. But when it was about to get close, it suddenly exploded with a powerful blade aura. Slash! A charming shout, accompanied by a blazing glaive, split the sky with a flash of lightning. Crack! The Earth Sovereign was actually killed with a single slash. This thunderous slash, along with his nascent soul, was torn apart and died on the spot. Killing a sovereign with a single slash, this seemed to be something that only Lin Jun had done before. The radiant ruler's eyeballs almost fell out. He thought that Feng Qingwan only relied on Lin Jun's strength to get a fire-type, supremacy god crystal. He did not expect her to be so strong. He didn't know that Feng Qingwan had always relied on her own ability. Born in Jianghu, what she lacked the least was fighting experience. What's more, that sovereign had underestimated her, so it wasn't unusual for him to be killed in a single strike. After killing a sovereign with a single saber strike, only the divinity crystal rose into the air. Feng Qingwan raised her glaive and dashed toward the other dominator like a streak of light. The ruler was scared out of his wits. He hurriedly swung his long sword to block, but how could his long sword fight against Miss Feng's broadsword? Wherever the long saber passed, not even a blade of grass grew. Clang, 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 clang. This long sword was instantly cut into several pieces. Within a second, Feng Qingwan's saber was swung out like a gust of wind. The speed of the long weapon was actually faster than the short weapon. Every slash was accompanied by endless flames. Under the high temperature of millions of degrees, the sovereign had no chance at all. He was cut into pieces by Feng Qingwan. The corpse was incinerated, and the nascent soul was also killed. Feng Qingwan killed the second person. Killing two of them in a row took no more than 2 seconds. Moreover, Feng Qingwan's movements were very strange. She just so happened to be at 2 different angles, making it impossible for the Sovereign of Light to chase after her. In the blink of an eye, his helper was gone. The Sovereign of Light was furious. "Damn you, bitch. I'm going to kill you today." The Sovereign of Light raised his hand, and a sword shining with holy light appeared in his hand. This was his top-grade weapon, the best of the best, the Holy Light Sword. This sword could destroy all evil. It could be considered a quasi-supreme weapon. Waving the Holy Light Sword, the Sovereign of Light pointed at Feng Qingwan. "Bitch, your Lin family's days of glory are over. The Sovereign of Primal Chaos will descend upon this world. You frogs at the bottom of a well, before the end comes, let me teach you a lesson. I'll let you know how a Sovereign of Light should fight." Feng Qingwan raised her glaive. "Ugly bastard, you're already outdated. Go to your coffin. Go to hell." The Holy Light Sword slashed down with earth-shattering might. The Sovereign of Light didn't like Feng Qingwan. This was because ever since Feng Qingwan became the Sovereign of Fire, there were people who said that she was the #1 Sovereign of Light. One had to know that this position used to belong to the Sovereign of Light. Now that it had been snatched away by a woman, how could he accept it? Moreover, this was Lin Jun's woman. Therefore, he used all his strength, wanting nothing more than to kill Feng Qingwan with 1 slash. Feng Qingwan didn't show any mercy either. She used all her abilities. Old and new sovereigns, on this unknown chaos altar, began a life-and-death battle. Light against fire. These 2 types of energy, somewhat similar, clashed fiercely here. He didn't know until he fought, but once he did, the Sovereign of Light understood that he couldn't win against Feng Qingwan. Feng Qingwan's talent was frighteningly good. Although it wasn't as heaven-defying as Lin Jun's, it was still very, very rare. No matter how the Sovereign of Light attacked, he couldn't really do anything to this woman. Moreover, the opponent's flame attacks were giving him quite a bit of pressure. If this continued, he would be the one to lose in the end. But the Sovereign of Light wasn't afraid. This was because Feng Qingwan was anxious. She was anxious to save her sisters. Although he wasn't as strong as her, he could still delay her for a period of time. Therefore, he began to use guerrilla tactics to delay as much time as possible. As long as Lone Star Fishing Elders stabilized the situation, Feng Qingwan would be finished. Feng Qingwan could tell what the Sovereign of Light was thinking. She naturally couldn't waste time with him. Suddenly, she leaped high into the air and pounced towards the Sovereign of Light. Flames erupted from her body, and a scorching heat wave surged over. "Huh, it's useless. My light shield is enough to resist your flames." A holy light barrier appeared on the Sovereign of Light's body. This was his trump card. It was also because of this that he was able to contend with Feng Qingwan. Feng Qingwan twisted her body in midair. The intense flames transformed into a fire arrow that shot over. Besides her natal true flame, there was also Lin Jun's fire Qilin true flame. She and Lin Jun were connected by blood. Similarly, she was proficient in Lin Jun's fire energy. Therefore, Feng Qingwan's mastery of fire was #1 in the world. The fire arrow slammed into the holy light barrier. The holy light barrier shattered like a glass cup. "Ah, not good," the Sovereign of Light screamed. Before he could react, Feng Qingwan had already brushed past him. Her large glaive swept up, cleaving his body in two. The battle between the old and the new sovereign of light had already been decided. Feng Qingwan was the #1 sovereign of light. Feng Qingwan's attack had succeeded. Just as she was about to follow up with another attack to kill the sovereign of light's nascent soul, a vicious gust of wind came from afar. It was Lone Star Fishing Elder, who was suppressing the 55 sovereigns. Lone Star Fishing Elder had already used the Primal Chaos Altar to temporarily suppress the 55 sovereigns. Seeing that the Sovereign of Light was about to be finished, he hurriedly came out to deal with Feng Qingwan. Feng Qingwan originally wanted to test out Lone Star's strength, but she could vaguely see that Sunflower Scar was being suppressed under the light barrier and was mouthing words to her. Chapter 1448. Feng Qingwan could read Sunflower Scar's lips. Although she was unwilling, she did not hesitate. Although Lone Star Fishing Old Man had borrowed the power of the altar to forcefully imprison 55 sovereigns, his own strength was absolutely astonishing. There was no need to say who the traitor was. Lone Star Fishing Old Man, Radiant Ruler, and the others had been acting all along. But to solve all these problems, it had to be based on Feng Qingwan leaving the altar, the underground palace, and even the Beast King prison. Only by escaping could she inform Lin Jun of this and have Lin Jun come to her rescue. She might not be able to win, but she was still confident in escaping. Without any hesitation, Feng Qingwan turned and flew out. At this moment, the Radiant Ruler's broken body flew up. One of his hands was still waving the Radiant Holy Sword to stop her. For a Dominator, a broken body did not mean anything. Injuries were injuries, but they would not die. So he had to buy time for Lone Star. He had to stop Feng Qingwan. The Radiant Holy Sword showed off its power again. If it was in the past, Feng Qingwan would not be afraid of the Radiant Ruler. Besides, he was still broken. But now, Lone Star was behind her. Feng Qingwan gritted her teeth. Damn it, die for me. Since she was blocked, she would kill as many as she could. Feng Qingwan was that decisive. She waved her saber, emitting a biting cold saber light. Ignoring her own safety, she killed the Radiant Ruler again. This time, she killed him thoroughly. She did not even care about Lone Star's attack behind her. She crushed the Radiant Ruler's Divine Infant alive. Although Lone Star's attack was bound to hit, Feng Qingwan still looked at the Radiant Ruler's Divine Infant with a shocked and incredulous expression. Bye-bye. Pooh. The Radiant Ruler did not even dream that this woman would be so ruthless. She actually chose to kill him at this moment. He did not know if she was stupid or smart. But no matter what, he was dead. The first Dominator of his generation had died under the blade of a new female Dominator. No one knew, and no one would remember him. His radiant god crystal broke through the air and went straight into the chaos. Thus, he fell and became a part of history. Of course, killing the Radiant Ruler had its own repercussions. Lonely Star Fishing Old Man's attack hit Feng Qingwan. With a blood-curdling scream, Feng Qingwan was sent flying through the air. When the attack neared, Feng Qingwan tried her best to avoid being hit in her vitals. However, she was still badly hit by Lone Star Fishing Old Man's attack. Feng Qingwan was blasted into the mountain wall. This attack had depleted more than half of her divine body's energy. It should be known that Solitary Star's attack hadn't been prepared in the slightest. Yet, it was still so powerful. From this, one could see just how powerful a peak Dominator was. Damn woman, you killed Guang Guang. At this moment, Lone Star had completely torn off his mask of hypocrisy. He no longer wanted to pretend to be a benevolent elder. He had endured and planned for this day, but he had not expected that something would go wrong at the last moment. The Radiant Hegemon had been his most capable assistant, but he had actually been slain right in front of him. He wanted to tear Feng Qingwan into pieces. Solitary Star was surprised that he hadn't been able to kill her in one strike. This woman was very strong, almost as strong as Sunflower Scar. Solitary Star believed that this woman's strength could be ranked in the top 5 of the sovereigns. However, it was time to end this. After taking his attack, even if she didn't die, she was close to death. Just as he thought that the dust had settled, He flew to the mountain wall and saw a shocking scene. Feng Qingwan had used the heaven-burning flame to burn through the mountain wall and escape along the mountain wall. As long as she rushed out of the range of the altar, it would be difficult to find her in the underground palace. Solitary Star's expression changed. You want to escape? You want your man to deliver a letter? Dream on. With a wave of his hand, a long staff appeared in his hand. It wasn't a staff, but a fishing rod. If Lin Zhan saw this staff, he would definitely recognize it. This was the weapon that the Radiant Hegemon had used to fight against his Lotus Spear. This weapon was Lone Star Fishing Old Man's fishing rod. It was just that he had hidden his true appearance back then, which was why he had fooled these people. At the front of the fishing rod was a thin line. This was his weapon. It was a weapon of the supreme equipment. Furthermore, the fishing rod was very special. Not only could it be used in battle, but it also had many other uses. With a swing of his fishing rod, Solitary Star followed her into the cave. You stay here. The fishing line seemed to have traversed through space and instantly entangled Feng Qingwan, who was still escaping. You want to escape in front of an old man like me? You are still too inexperienced. You had the best chance just now, but you gave it up. Now, I will take revenge for the Radiant Hegemon. With a shake of his hand, a murderous aura was transmitted along the fishing line. Feng Qingwan's delicate body was tightly bound. She was unable to break free. When that murderous aura came, she was also powerless. Ugh, so painful. Feng Qingwan's large glaive fell to the ground. She tried to break free from the fishing line, but the strong force made her powerless. If this continued, she would be strangled to death. Feng Qingwan gritted her teeth and self-destructed. A decisive woman. She did it without hesitation. With a loud boom, heaven and earth shook. Feng Qingwan's radiant Hegemon god crystal rose into the air. Her body was no longer there. Solitary Star, fishing old man, who was still trying to kill Feng Qingwan, trembled and sat on the ground. He couldn't help but spit out a mouthful of blood. He didn't expect Feng Qingwan to self-destruct. The force was transmitted along the fishing line, which caused him to be heavily injured. The *MN woman. She is even more ruthless than most men. Even at death's door, she still gave me such a heavy blow. Solitary Star's eyes were filled with hatred. There were too many accidents at the last moment. The woman from the Lin family was guarding against him. This Feng Qingwan was even more difficult to deal with. This forced him to postpone his plan. He had to heal his injuries first. Those fellas in the altar, I will let you live for a while longer. He kept the fishing rod and sat on the ground. He calmed the blood in his heart and prepared to heal his injuries. Lin Zhan, he is really my good disciple. I really misjudged him back then. Recalling the past, Solitary Star sighed. But in his heart, nothing was more important than his own future. His plan had to succeed. Instinctively, he scanned the surroundings with his divine sense, trying to see if there were any other disturbances. He scanned the altar, the battlefield just now, and the cave that Feng Qingwan escaped from. After he scanned through the divine sense, Solitary Star, fishing old man's face changed. Chapter 1449. Lone Star Fishing Old Man saw that although Feng Qingwan had self-destructed, she had been reborn in the flames. After being reborn, she had turned into a small phoenix and used the flames to break through the walls. She had rushed out of the altar and into the underground palace. Damn it, I forgot that Feng Qingwan is a phoenix. She can be reborn. Only by killing her nirvana body can we kill her completely. Phoenixes were mystical spiritual beasts. They had the unique ability to be reborn. This was the main reason why Feng Qingwan had dared to self-destruct. However, Lone Star Fishing Old Man had forgotten this, which allowed Feng Qingwan to escape. Run. Let's see where you can run to. Lone Star Fishing Old Man stood up abruptly and whistled to his surroundings. In the darkness, beasts appeared one after another. The beasts that had ambushed the sovereigns had already finished devouring the sovereigns' corpses and were nearby. Among them, a few of the ferocious beasts leading the pack exuded an extremely powerful aura. One was a long snake with a human head and a snake body. Its face was green, and it looked like a woman. However, it was definitely not beautiful. She was as terrifying as a ghost. This was the Ice Sea's Yuan-Shi. Another was a huge beast with a tiger's back and a bear's waist. It had green fangs and sharp claws. This was the king of the land beasts. This was the extreme fiend Prison's Gauchin. There was another beast that looked like a large dog. It had the characteristics of a dragon, but it did not look like any other dragon. There was a scar on its back. That was the dragon scale that Lin Jun had ripped off. This was the king of the dragon race on Dragonbone Mountain. Qi Long beside the 3 ferocious beasts were 2 other ferocious beasts. These 2 beasts were also very powerful. They were special beasts among the 81 beasts. The other exalted level beasts and ordinary beasts were also in the vicinity. It was no wonder that they hadn't encountered any sovereign level beasts along the way. It turned out that they were all gathered here. Qi Long looked at Lone Star and laughed. Kaka, Lone Star, you were injured by a woman. You're really a good-for-nothing. Lone Star's face was green. You don't have to laugh at me. At least I've found 55 sacrifices. Can't you deny that? Qi Long, Qi Shi, and Gauchin glanced at the primal chaos altar and revealed satisfied expressions. This time, almost all of the sovereigns had been captured in one fell swoop. It could be said that the sovereigns of the various races were no longer a threat to the dire beasts. This was all thanks to Lone Star. Gu Xing continued, but don't get too cocky. If you want to complete the chaos sacrifice, you need a safe environment. If Feng Qingwan escapes, she might inform Lin Jun. You have to stop Feng Qingwan from escaping no matter what. Don't let her and Lin Jun meet up. Can you do it? Won't she contact Lin Jun through the dimensional universe? That's impossible. It happened so suddenly that she didn't have a chance. Now that Nirvana can't open the dimensional universe, I'll have to rely on you guys for the rest. I also need to take advantage of this time to recover. I was injured by that woman's self-destruction and need time to heal. Envious Snake's mouth curled. A mere human martial artist? What can he do even if he comes? Gauchin didn't care either. He hasn't even reached perfection. Even if he comes, he'll be eaten by us. Just nice. Only Qi Long shuddered. No, you 2 idiots. That human isn't that simple. Anyway, before I become a primal chaos beast, I don't want to face him. We have to stop this woman. Hearing the fearless Qi Long say this about a human, Envious Snake and Gauchin felt that the situation might be serious. All right then, leave this to us. Don't worry, the Beast King prison is so big. It won't be easy for a small phoenix to escape. We'll cast an inescapable net now. She won't be able to escape even if she has wings. With the 3 perfection sovereigns giving the order, all the sovereigns unleashed their might. Beastly roars reverberated in the underground palace. The sound was transmitted in a special way. It didn't rely on sound waves, but directly transmitted to the minds of the dire beasts. Soon, every dire beast on the Beast King prison continent knew that they were going to hunt down Feng Qingwan. The peaceful continent became restless. All the dire beasts were on the move. With their low intelligence, they received an order, and that was to hunt down a phoenix. Phoenixes were easy to find. Their flaming bodies were the most conspicuous existence in the Beast King prison. The Beast King prison was hundreds of thousands of light years wide. It wasn't easy for her to escape. One by one, the dire beasts flew into the sky and burrowed into the ground, searching for Feng Qingwan in their respective territories. Dire beast had a unique way of communicating. Once a dire beast discovered something, it would quickly notify its peers. After the message was sent, Qi Long said to Lone Star, "Don't worry, that little phoenix won't be able to escape." Lone Star nodded. "That's for the best. Let's hope there's good news soon. Now, you all should think about who should fill the remaining 26 positions." In fact, these perfection sovereigns knew the way to become a primal chaos beast. The target had to be placed in the middle of the pit, which was his heart position. It wasn't called the heart position, but the pit in the middle. Lone Star had made it up to deceive the sovereigns. The target had to be placed in the center, and then there would be 80 sovereigns around him sacrificing their lives. The power of 81 sovereigns would be gathered and sacrificed to the person in the center. This way, an unparalleled primal chaos beast would be created. Whether it was relying on the dire beast's power alone or the sovereign's power alone, it wouldn't be enough to gather so many people. Therefore, this matter required the cooperation of the various races and the dire beasts. Lone Star had won the trust of the 3 perfection dire beasts because he had promised to bring the sovereigns here and sacrifice their lives. Therefore, the 3 perfection dire beasts trusted him and promised him many benefits. Now, Lone Star had tricked 55 sovereigns, but it wasn't enough. He still needed 26 sovereigns to be sacrificed to fill the remaining 26 pits. These sovereigns were the subordinates of Qi Long and the other 2. Naturally, they had to choose carefully. They had to choose those that they didn't like and those who weren't strong enough to fill the pits. Those experts couldn't be casually sacrificed. Qi Long and the other 2 perfection dire beasts stayed behind to discuss the important matter with Lone Star. As for the 6 special sovereigns under them, they were sent out to hunt down Feng Qingwan. This way, they could ensure that the 6 pits wouldn't be filled and retain their strength. With these 6 sovereigns, Feng Qingwan wouldn't be able to escape. 2 dragon dire beasts, 2 dire beasts, and 2 snake-type dire beasts rushed out of the underground palace and began to search for Feng Qingwan. The chaotic Beast King prison temporarily stopped fighting. All forces were mobilized. No matter what, they had to find a phoenix that shone in the dark night. Chapter 1450. On the Beast King prison continent, the temperature was frighteningly low. It wasn't frightening, it was killing. Any human being that came here would turn into a zombie in a second. Ordinary creatures that weren't strong enough wouldn't be able to survive here, except for those beasts that were born on this continent. But Feng Qingwan wasn't born here. The newly born phoenix was extremely weak. After rushing out of the underground palace, she tried her best to release flames to resist the cold of the Beast King prison continent. She couldn't contact Lin Jun through the alternate universe now. The only thing she could do was to survive and leave this place alive to find Lin Jun. But she knew that the chances were slim. First of all, it was difficult for her to leave the Beast King prison alive. Even if she did, how was she going to cross the vast universe to find Lin Jun? But Feng Qingwan was a strong woman. She wouldn't give up hope. Flapping her wings, she flew through the cold. She could feel the murderous aura in the air. Waves of aura shot up into the sky and flew across the continent. Those must be people who were chasing after her. If she kept her flames, she wouldn't be so conspicuous. But she couldn't. Once she did, she would die. The cold here could take her life in an instant. Once she died, she wouldn't be able to undergo nirvana again. And the flames on her body were like a beacon in this dark continent. It attracted the attention of others. Less than 5 minutes after she flew out, some beasts discovered her. The first to discover her was a group of greedy snakes in the cold wind. Greedy snakes weren't cold-blooded animals. They had sharp fangs and moved out in groups. The king of greedy snakes was Greedy Snake King. It was also one of the special dominators. After receiving the order from Greedy Snake, these greedy snakes began to appear in the sky. They thought that there was a high chance of finding Feng Qingwan. Indeed, there was strength in numbers. These bandits flying in the sky were the first to discover Feng Qingwan. There! The glowing object over there. Gaga. It's really Phoenix. Catch her. Eat her. The group of greedy snakes flew in the wind, revealing their fangs and saliva as they pounced towards Feng Qingwan. Feng Qingwan looked back and saw a black mass of greedy snakes roaring in the sky. She suddenly cried bitterly in her heart. If he was killed by Lone Star, then his death would be worth something. If he was killed by these beasts that only knew how to devour, then his death would be meaningless. Feng Qingwan didn't want to die. She flapped her wings and flew towards the edge of Beast King prison. The phoenix's speed was extremely fast. She was the king of flying birds. These greedy snakes were not as fast as her, and the distance between them gradually widened. However, the other party had the advantage of numbers, and they could communicate with each other. The greedy snakes hissed, attracting their distant companions to gather here. In the distant sky, another group of greedy snakes appeared. Seeing that it was about to be surrounded, Feng Qingwan gritted its teeth. After a clear phoenix cry, a flame whizzed out. The raging flames, which were usually extremely powerful, were greatly reduced in this place. In the past, he could kill at least 1,000 greedy snakes with a single blow, but this time he only burned 200. Feng Qinghuan folded its wings and flew through the passage made by the flames. However, as the greedy snakes were not all burned, a few of them that were close to Feng Qinghuan waved their claws. With a cry, Feng Qinghuan's body had a few bloody wounds. However, she didn't dare to stop and rushed forward resolutely. After shaking off the group of greedy snakes, she didn't have time to heal and continued flying forward. Just as she shook them off, another group of beasts appeared. The noise of the greedy snakes attracted other beasts. This time, it was a group of God King rank beasts. There were even pseudo-dominator rank beasts. As the reborn Feng Qinghuan had left the Dominator God Crystal, she was only at God King rank. This group of beasts was enough to tear her into pieces. Heaven burning flame. Seeing the situation, Feng Qinghuan knew that the chances of escaping were very small. She might as well release all the flames that she had stored up. This move, when Feng Qinghuan was with Lin Zhun, she had used it against the insect race. It was her trump card. Although the power was reduced in Beast King Prison, it was enough to make the incoming beasts suffer. More than 10 God King rank beasts were turned into ashes by Feng Qinghuan's flames. Looking at the gap created by the flames, Feng Qinghuan retracted her wings and flew through again. She couldn't care less about preserving her strength anymore. She used all her remaining strength and flew with all her might. Behind her, groups of ferocious beasts appeared. The news of Feng Qinghuan being discovered had spread. It had already spread throughout Beast King Prison. This location was no longer a secret. Under the orders of the Dominators, countless beasts gathered in this direction from all directions. Some of the Dominator rank beasts that were nearby even rushed over personally. Killing Lin Zhun's woman and having a taste of phoenix meat. What a wonderful thing this was. Kakaka. That little phoenix is coming in this direction. In the cold wind, Greedy Snake King appeared. As a special Dominator rank beast, Greedy Snake King was very powerful. Just now, its group was the first to discover Feng Qinghuan. Greedy Snake King was also the first Dominator rank beast to know the location of Feng Qinghuan. At that time, Greedy Snake King felt that its chance had come. It didn't even inform any other Dominators. Based on the information from its subordinates, it judged that Feng Qinghuan might be coming in this direction. Hence, it came here in advance to intercept her. Indeed, a faint red light was flying here quickly. It proved that its judgment was right. Coiling snake formation. Set up a trap. I want to see where this phoenix can escape to. Following its order, hundreds of pseudo-dominator rank snakes began to set up a formation in the sky. Each snake was hundreds of kilometers long. As they circled in the sky, they covered this part of the sky. The darkness was good for hiding. In addition to Greedy Snake King's unique fog concealment, Feng Qinghuan didn't notice it at all. Hence, she barged in unknowingly. Trap her. When Feng Qinghuan noticed it, the surrounding formation had already closed up. There wasn't a single gap in the sky. Countless snakes flew past her, separating her from each other. The space she had to move around was getting smaller and smaller. Crack! A few snakes coiled over. Little Phoenix cried out in pain as she was completely entangled. Her petite body was tightly entangled. She couldn't move. An unbelievably huge snake slithered out from the group of snakes and slowly crawled in front of Feng Qinghuan. If Feng Qinghuan was in perfect condition, her strength would be on par with this snake. Hence, she couldn't resist at all. Kakaka, what a beautiful little phoenix. Today, I will be the first snake to eat a phoenix. Ha! Opening its bloody mouth, Greedy Snake King fiercely bit at Feng Qinghuan's trapped body. Little Phoenix closed her eyes and cried out in pain. Hubby, where are you? Chapter 1451. On the arena continent, Lin Zhun began his most crucial cultivation. Ruler, the ultimate dream of all martial artists. In a vast universe, there were tens of thousands of races, but there were only a few rulers. Many people had never even heard of them. If it weren't for the restlessness of the primal chaos and the impending calamity of the universe, there wouldn't have been so many rulers dying. Normally, as long as there wasn't any internal strife, it was impossible for rulers to die. Lin Jun had cultivated all the way and finally reached this step today. It was impossible for him not to be excited. However, Lin Jun's mentality was very good. If he wanted a breakthrough, he could have done so long ago. It was only now that the conditions were right. He had already finished all the things he wanted to learn and cultivate. Breaking through was a matter of course. The entire arena continent was now completely covered by Lin Jun's divine power. Before breaking through, his divine power was 145 million. According to what he knew, a ruler's god crystal could provide 50 million divine power, so his divine power could reach 190 million. Ordinary supreme rulers and special rulers could have over 100 million divine power. Lin Jun's divine power wasn't particularly outstanding. A perfect ruler's divine power was definitely above 200 million, or even higher. This could be seen from the Jade Buddha. In front of the Jade Buddha, there was Lone Star in myth. Lin Jun didn't really trust anyone, especially his teacher, Lone Star. When the holy angel had gone to the fallen star lake through the thread, Lin Jun had suspected that his teacher was behind it. However, he hadn't had any concrete evidence. Therefore, to ensure that he didn't have to worry about anything after breaking through, Lin Jun's divine power had to be higher. Although he could continue to absorb beast cores to increase his divine power, Lin Jun knew that he didn't have that much time. The restlessness of the primal chaos was imminent. Currently, he could only hope that this breakthrough would increase his divine power a little. Before breaking through, Lin Jun had to do something first. Within the universe of the primal chaos lotus, the second treasure was about to be born. Feeling the restlessness of the treasure's aura, Lin Jun sat cross-legged on the ground and immersed his spiritual force into the green lotus. Around him was a vast chaotic world. Heaven and earth could be opened at any time. Wandering around the chaotic world, Lin Jun's spiritual power arrived in front of this treasure. The world nurtured by the Chaos Green Lotus also had many shadows of the Chaos Green Lotus. For example, lotus flowers, lotus leaves, lotus seed pods, and lotus seeds gave birth to the primal chaos lotus spear. And this treasure was actually formed from the essence of the dew within the chaotic green lotus. Lin Jun originally thought that it might be something like a battle armor, but now he realized that it was actually a treasure similar to a soft weapon. It was in a liquid form, but it was not water. It was soft, and if one poured in divine power, it could change its shape at will. Lin Jun laughed heartily when he saw that it was a ball. Good. My weapon should be ever-changing. Having the primal chaos lotus spear is enough. No other weapon is more suitable for me than this soft weapon. Lin Jun had used liquid metal weapons before, and it was very convenient for him to use them. This thing appeared just right. With a raise of his hand, the fully matured soft weapon fell into Lin Jun's hand. After thinking about it, Lin Jun decided to temporarily turn it into a belt. This way, it would be more convenient to use. With a flash of light, the soft weapon was at his waist. This was not an ordinary soft weapon, but a supreme weapon, and it was a special grade supreme weapon. No other weapon could compare to it. After collecting the soft weapon, Lin Jun's mission was basically completed. Next, it was time to fuse with the ruler's godly crystal. His spiritual power entered the primal chaos lotus seed. This place nurtured Lin Jun's hope, the ruler's godly crystal. At this point, Lin Jun had seen many rulers' godly crystals, but this one looked a little different. This universe's 81 godly crystals were divided into 8 major elemental series, plus 9 special godly crystals. And this one was nurtured by Lin Jun's universe world. It was not an elemental godly crystal, but contained all of the elemental energy. More importantly, the chaos aura surging here looked different from ordinary godly crystals. The diamond-shaped shape was sparkling and translucent, like a huge crystal stone. Furthermore, This was nurtured by Lin Zhun's universe and was incomparably compatible with Lin Zhun's own attribute. With the mood of a pilgrimage, Lin Zhun gently touched it with his spiritual power. The already fully matured ruler's godly crystal fell at this moment. Lin Zhun opened his hands. The godly crystal came out of the primal chaos universe and landed in his hands. This is really the most beautiful thing in the world. Looking carefully left and right, up and down, Lin Zhun decided to fuse after a long time. Opening both hands, the crystal formation realm spiritual power completely covered. Lin Zhun began to cast away the distracting thoughts in his heart. As a person who had lived 2 lives and experienced the 9 revolutions of nirvana, he had finally reached this moment. Before the fusion began, his inner demons appeared and danced wildly, trying to disturb Lin Zhun's thoughts. Disperse. His steel-like willpower was exerted, causing all the illusions to disappear. He tried his best to take deep breaths and adjust his inner breath, allowing his body and mind to be in the best state. After confirming that he was in the best state, Lin Zhun raised his hand and poured his spiritual power in. Swish! At this moment, the primal chaos godly crystal directly disappeared between Lin Zhun's eyebrows. The ruler's spiritual power entered the spiritual sea. In an instant, Lin Zhun felt his brain region fiercely expand a few times. Then, an unbelievably powerful force came crashing down from his brain region. The huge force flowed through Lin Zhun's limbs and bones, causing his body to go through thousands of refinements in an instant. The godly power in his dantian seemed to grow explosively. The speed of growth was so fast that even Lin Zhun didn't expect it. Lin Zhun's godly power was 145 million, of which more than 800 million came from his own godly power. The other 600 million came from his domain. Lin Zhun was still in the pseudo-dominator domain, increasing his godly power by 80%. Once he broke through to dominator, before his godly power increased, his domain broke through first. Lin Zhun finally broke through from pseudo-dominator domain to dominator domain. His godly power increased by 90%. However, this degree of breakthrough was nothing compared to Lin Zhun's current breakthrough. After the increase in godly power, it rose from 145 million to 195 million in the blink of an eye. Will it still increase? This primal chaos godly crystal should have more than 50 million godly power. The sesame seed bloomed and rose steadily. His godly power exceeded 200 million. It still didn't stop and was rapidly breaking through 220 million. The clouds above the arena continent surged. Within 1,000,000 light years, all living beings knelt down. In the sky, the origin energy of the universe was forming. Although Lin Zhun's breakthrough hadn't ended, 220 million godly power had already broken the record for Dominator breakthrough.